Hey, everybody, welcome on back. It's the You Gotta Try This podcast in our brand new studio here at Barstool NYC HQ. So I can actually do this today for the first time, Ian. You got to try this with Large. Ian's behind the ones and twos. And again, extremely excited about having our own spot where we can do content in this studio. There's a couple of people who have dedicated studios either here or in Chicago. So we're very happy to be part of that list. And so thanks, Dave, for signing off on that. And I'm extremely excited about this episode in particular because we're going to have Andrew Zimmern on. And Andrew Zimmern's been a guy that I've admired ever since I started watching TV, food-related TV. So a big episode, and this episode is brought to you by none other than Pepsi. Said this a million times. Food deserves Pepsi. Pepsi makes flavors pop. Good food is even better when you add Pepsi to the mix. I was in Brooklyn this weekend and I went to Bassett's. I hadn't been to Bassett's in ages. Over on like 14th Street and Avenue X maybe. My brother and I, we went down this steam table getting a little bit of everything. Yeah, let me try the meatloaf. Let me get some ribs. Let me get chicken franchise. And the reason I was so pumped about it, because I looked right behind me and inside the refrigerator cabinet or refrigerator, walk-in, whatever the hell it is, 2-liter bottle of Pepsi. Brought this whole feast back to my mom and dad's house, absolutely chowed down, and everyone's meal was made a little bit better because we had Pepsi along the way. So if you go to a restaurant, ask for it by name. If you go to a bodega and they don't have it, say, hey, why don't you get some of it in? Because Pepsi makes food taste better. Good food deserves Pepsi. And it's one of those things that I always order or at least ask for. Like I was so pleasantly surprised with our latest review, Randy's Up the River, where they had it. Anytime I see it, I order it. I implore you to do the same thing. And thank you, Pepsi, for your continued support. All right. So like I had said, this is a big episode for us. One of the things we want to do here is there's a lot of personalities at Barstool, and a lot of the people who work here in New York's HQ, younger people who get to try restaurants that I just can't get to. You know, I live in northern New Jersey, so as much as I do go out and I try to eat all around the country, I don't get to all the restaurants that I want to in New York City. So I'm going to tell people in the New York City office, if you have something that really knocked your eye out, come in and tell me about it and try to make me jealous. Try to make me jealous and just inform me of where I need to go. And it can be like a little segment where somebody just kind of comes in, drops that, and gets the hell out. So today we're going to do the first one. And selfishly, I was at the meal that we're going to talk about. I was at Emilio's Ballato last week with Gaz, who's been on the show before. Gaz has got unlimited resources. He's a rich man. And he's got the ins. He gets great tables. So I've been to Fort Charles with Gaz. I was in the private room at Emilio's Ballato last week with Gaz and a couple other people. So I'm going to fill you in on the meal, and I think there's no better way to do it than to have Gaz in. So it's going to be me. It's going to be Ian. It's going to be Gaz. It's going to be Andrew Zimmern. This is a big goddamn episode. I'm very happy to have you guys on board. Ian, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, feeling good in the new studio.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of growing pains. I'm looking directly at a camera so I can't see Ian that clearly, and I'm not complaining. Not complaining at all. But I will tell you, as Ian reminds me before every show, 5-star reviews, like, subscribe, do whatever you can to keep this show going, and throw in a question with any kind of five-star review on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever the hell you watch or listen to this thing, and we'll try to get to one every episode. Ian, you have a question for me today?
Yep, this one comes from. This is a real life question.
Whoa, real life.
We have an IRL question.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This one comes from a guy named Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin asks, why the hell haven't I'm kind of inserting that in there. Why the hell haven't you been to Kips Bay yet on the map for the food reviews? And I was looking at the map. He kind of has a point. There's a little chunk of the Murray Hill, like Kips Bay area that we just haven't been to any spots in.
You know what? I look at the map quite often. I see that that's a glaring omission as well. It's not one that I do on purpose, Kevin. I just I'm trying to cover the whole fucking country at this point. But you're right. Kips Bay has got a lot. So for people who aren't from New York, Kips Bay is an area on the east side of New York. It's from the teens up to the mid 30s between Lexington and the river. That's Kips Bay. I don't know if Kips Bay also kind of swallows up Murray Hill. Like I think Kips Bay is like a broader area. So there is a ton of wood to chop in there. technically maybe the Second Avenue Deli kind of fell inside of Kips Bay. But to this gentleman's point, there's a lot of places that I should be hitting in and around Kips Bay. I was driving up with somebody the other day, and I took a picture of a restaurant I was going by. I don't know if it's in Kips, though. Do I call it Kips now? It's called Sauerkraut Fish, which just sounds absolutely terrible. So I think I'm going to go to it just to see what it's about. Sauerkraut fish, I think the reason it's called sauerkraut fish is it's translated from Chinese. So maybe it's like a loose translation and it's just more like a fermented cabbage and fish or something, because I don't think I'm going to go in there and just get plain old sauerkraut with a big piece of fish on it. I think that's kind of around there, but I promise I will do a little bit more legwork. I think one of the better pints of Guinness you can get in the city is inside Kips Bay too. So there's really a bunch of options in there. And I'm assuming since Kevin didn't leave me any recommendations, he's looking for me to do the legwork on it, right? Is that it?
I happen to know who Kevin is. Okay. And yeah, he's looking for help. He's not like, oh, you haven't been to this spot in Kips Bay. You haven't been to this spot in the Kips.
Which I love. I do. I when people give me recommendations, sometimes it's hurtful when I go to a place and they're like, oh, you should have went next door. Only an idiot would eat there and go, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in upstate New York. If you think, I just went to, like I had mentioned in the opening mention of Pepsi, I went to a place called Randy's Up the River in Allegheny, New York. If Ruby's Up the River, 2 doors down is better, believe me, I didn't know either of them fucking existed until I got there. And again, I throw away a lot of the reviews that I do because you got to try this. I don't shit on places normally unless something really goes wrong on the reviews. I can shit on places out, on the podcast, not shit on places, but just give honest reviews of places that I'd rather you avoid on the podcast. But for what I do on social, we just try to give you what I enjoy. And so I walked into this place with zero expectations, and it happened to be Fish Fry Friday, and I had a wonderful experience. So then I had to kind of like de facto tape around. A bunch of bikers were looking at me. I thought I was going to get accosted, perhaps molested. So if you want to send in, if there's any Kips Bay people out there who are like, oh, Large, this fits your bill. You should you got to try sauerkraut fish here, or you got to try this or this in Kips Bay. I'm saying the word Kips Bay a lot that it's starting to lose its meaning. Please send that in. But I will say to Kevin right now, and I'm looking into the camera earnestly, I'll try my best to get a couple of them on the tape in the next couple of weeks.
Sauerkraut fish is just below Kips Bay. It looks like in like Gramercy area. But I feel like he'd appreciate anything close to that.
Okay. And I'm telling you right now, sauerkraut fish might be one that I don't put up because I don't have high expectations going in.
It's got good reviews.
Oh, does it really?
5 stars, 600 plus 5-star reviews on whatever Google.
Okay. Yeah. And that's a place that I'd be going to strictly for the name. Strictly for the fact it's sauerkraut fish. I say I don't shit on things during our reviews on social. I will tell you, I had a terrible experience this weekend. I love Asian supermarkets. We have a J-Mart in town, which is like a small Japanese market in Ridgewood, New Jersey, where I live. And it's just a small place. It doesn't have much. There's a guy in the back who rolls sushi. So it's like a sneaky place where you can go in and get a quick set for lunch and whatnot. And they have just maybe 2 aisles with anything a Japanese person who's missing home could go in there and get, certain sauces and noodles and all this kind of stuff that they might have a hankering for. But they opened up an H-Mart on Route 17 in Paramus, and it's a big supermarket. They have the freshest produce. They have like cilantro that lasts for 2 weeks. They have like a small food court with those Korean hot dogs and mochi donuts and bulgogi, and they do a bibimbap here, and they got this and that. They also have a marinated like meats bar that I pillage. I just made the pork belly yesterday for breakfast. That I do there. I get the pork belly, I get the bulgogi, I get the chicken. These are all pre-marinated stuff too, which I very rarely do because a lot of these marinades, they give me heartburn. Like if I don't make them myself sometimes. This place, I consider it elite. And then on top of it, they have a lot of great groceries in there and then sort of a bakery off to the side. It's one-stop shopping. I go there just about every week. My daughter loves going there with me too for the free samples. We go around and we start eating stuff off of toothpicks. They opened up, so that's the H Mart. They opened up a G Mart a little further down Route 17 in Lodi. Ian, I did what I think might be a scumbag move. I walk into the place. It's brand new. It's only open for a week. Immediately, there's like a stench to the place. It's immaculate, but there's a stench to the place. My daughter's like, whoa. I was like, you know what? They have some durian out, the durian fruit. I was like, maybe there's something going on with that. As we got back, through the produce and towards where the fish is, again, just the smell of a dirty woman just coming right over it. The whole place was just permeated with this weird smell of all this kind of stuff. And not that I don't enjoy exotic smells and flavors and spices and foods. This seemed like it seemed like it was like mold. I got a couple of things. They didn't have a marinated meats bar. They didn't have anything free sample. So I wasn't having the greatest experience personally. I get up to the register and there was a language barrier between the person working the register and me, but they were helping out somebody else where there wasn't a language barrier. And they were taking their time, so much so that the person in front of me online got off to go to a different line. So I was up next. I just sat there and they were working out something on their cell phones. And I was like, any ETA on when you can take? And the woman's like, no, you wait. So I just left my shit on the belt. Is this a scumbag move? I left maybe 15 items on the belt. I left my cart there and I just walked out of the fucking place. My daughter felt bad. She's like, can we do this, Dad? I'm like, Bridge, if they're not going to give us fucking service, I'm not going to sit here like an asshole. So this is an am I the asshole question, I guess.
I'm going to go ahead and say no.
But you're going to say no because you like me, or you're going to say no because you feel like...
Because I've had a similar experience.
And I'm not looking for them to blow me. I'm just looking for a little bit of acknowledgement because I'm going to drop good money in the place. And they just kind of, I honestly felt like I was on the pay me no mind list. The woman was on her cell phone. The customer came over and was doing something on her cell phone. And so we were just sitting there like morons. I put a little timer on it. I was just sitting there for like 8 minutes. So I was certainly as patient as I should have been. And I just cut bait. I feel like if you're next in line, these people were basically checked out. Maybe they were trying to do a return. Again, huge language barrier. I'm not going to say anything like that. I don't really care about that. But you got to provide us with like some semblance of service. And if not, that's where I'm at now. If I don't feel like service is good, I'm walking out of fucking places. That's the new me.
This seems to be happening everywhere. Do you see Jersey Jerry at Denny's?
No.
He tweeted, if I don't get service in these Denny's, I'm going to shoot my gun in the ceiling.
Okay, that's a little much, but yeah, okay. But, so then I'm not the asshole because I didn't promise any gunplay.
He was basically just like, I was the only person in there. There's 4 people working, not one. They just ignored him.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I know that customer service is not necessarily dead, but it's awfully close. One foot in the grave, the other on a banana peel. But every now and again, you need just a semblance of, and I know I mentioned the smell and all that kind of stuff and the lack of a marinated bar. That's all personal stuff for me. But I think anybody who's in my situation would be like, what the fuck are you doing? Or might have caused a scene. So I'm also not here to be a fucking goalie. So that place is now dead to me. And I walked away and I left myself on the thing. It is what it is, and that's I'm not going to take it back. I'm not the asshole.
If you're trying to pay for something and the place that is selling it is not like accepting your money or currency, there's not much else you can do at that point.
Ian, I had 3 of these cool Asian teacups with their own little caps on them, ceramic things. I had all this stuff that I'm buying. Like, I'm a super consumer. I spend a lot of stuff and I get yelled at for spending it. So getting a guy like me on your team with just checking me at the checkout, get me on my way. I don't think that's too much to ask. So I said, fuck it. And I cut bait. Positive note. I made chicken pot pies this week. I think I'm going to start telling you guys the best thing I ate this week. I did something off of TikTok. I saw some sort of quote unquote viral little thing. You know those, you ever cook a biscuit out of a tube? You don't cook it all. But you crack open a tube and they have like, buttermilk biscuits. They have these ones with like flaky layers. I took one of those. I rolled out the biscuit, like the bottom 2/3, and then the top third, put it in a muffin tin. I filled it up with what you would traditionally fill up a chicken pot pie with. I went a little, whatever, old school. I did like cream of chicken, a shredded up rotisserie chicken, and a bag of frozen vegetables, a little bit of Trappy's hot sauce into these biscuits, put the cap on it, brushed it with butter, and then some coarse salt that I had from these pretzels that I ordered. So it's like the real, like almost like rock salt, put them in. Oh, next level stuff. I had to close with that because I didn't feel like being mad at the Gmart. But what I want to do right now is I'm going to go and grab Gaz, and I'd like to make this something that we do every now and again. We're just going to talk about the meal. So I'm going to be back to you guys in 5 seconds, and I'll be here with Gaz. All right, so as promised, this is Gaz. So for people who are brand new to this show, shame on you, but Gaz was on one of our first 10 episodes, I think, by the time we had Gaz on, after he and I had sat down for a lovely meal. Like it was just he and I sitting down at Fort Charles for an absolutely lovely meal. And I went into that meal at Fort Charles almost wanting to hate it, almost wanting to say, hey, listen, give your money to a mom and pop instead, because you don't need to spend that type of money to go to a place like that. I was absolutely wrong. I was blown away. Lamb chops that they had given me were one of the best lamb chop dishes I had ever had. Obviously, all the stuff that you go there for, the burger, the French dip, all was as good as advertised. So there's another place in New York that has more of an old school feel. It's called Emilio's Ballato. It's been around for a while. It's a place to see and be seen for some people, but they also have very solid Italian food. And it's got that red and white checkered tablecloth, old guinea joint look. Impossible to get in. Gaz, listen, I know a guy. Do you want to go to Emilio's Ballato on some random day? We'll get a couple of guys together and we're going to go into the back room. I said, fuck yeah, I'll go to that. And I wound up going to that almost with the same, mindset. Maybe those mom and pop Italians are where you should be spending your money. And I still believe that wholeheartedly, going to places like Lido, Reservoir in South Orange, Arturo's up in Midland Park. These places are places where you need to spend, but also every now and again, going out for a big night out in the city at a place like Emilio's Ballato. I had a fantastic fucking experience from the time I walked in until the time that I walked out, and I want to tell people about it. Gaz, where the fuck do you get these tables, particularly this one? Because the gentleman that you brought with us was an absolute pleasure to be sitting next to. The whole thing was great, and I don't particularly like you, and you don't particularly like me either, but I think it's one of those things where we come together over great meals.
Yeah, we had a great meal. It was a great time. To answer your question on how to Emilio's Ballato, from what I understand, it's a walk-in only type of place, or you got to know the guy.
Yeah.
You got to be like friends with the family, got to have some sort of tie in there. So and if you want to walk in, you could be waiting 2-3 hours and maybe still not get in. It's from what I understand. I've never done that, but that's what I've heard, because I don't think they're on Resi. I don't think they're on Open Table, and they're none of these places. My connection there is my buddy Neil, who went to high school with the son of the owner, and he basically now like runs the show, and he's in there every day grinding it out.
That's Emilio.
Emilio Jr., yes.
But Emilio the senior, they have a painting of this guy on the wall. Ian, I took a lot of B-rolls. So Devlin came with us, Patty came with us, myself, Gaz, and Neil.
Yeah.
And so that was the table. So we did have a couple of people shooting with their phones. So we're going to have to create like a Dropbox and make like multiple things out of it for both Viva, for us, and, just to send to our families. Yeah. So I will tell you, he's glancing over this. This guy, Emilio's Ballato, Emilio, the original dad, is what you think he is. Big Italian dude who looks like he should own an Italian restaurant. His son is, I think, who you think he is. He's this handsome Italian guy who's like front of house, the guy that could talk you into possibly eating anything.
Right.
Oh, I'm allergic to chestnuts. No, not these are chestnuts, right. That type of thing. Everything that they were bagging, I was fucking raking, but go ahead. I
mean, his dad sits at a table out front. He's the guy, like he'll sit there with a buddy and he'll have his wine or whatever, and he'll just, walk you as you walk by, he'll just kind of give you the eyes type of thing. But yeah, you're right. Melio's more the face. He's the shaking the hands.
Yes.
He's doing all that kind of stuff. When we went in, we went in through the alleyway.
I'm going to interrupt him all fucking. So I've technically now never been to Emilio's Ballato. I've only been to the private room. I don't know what the fucking restaurant looks like. So it's on Houston Street. So if you're going to ask me what the difference between Emilio's Ballato and Rayo's is. Have you been to Rayo's?
I've not, no.
So Rayo's is a singular experience. I'm telling you, it's not the greatest food in the world as far as Italian food goes, but it's for the experience. Get yourself to Rayo's. I've been there a dozen times. But Rayo's is in Spanish Harlem. So when you're done with Rayo's, you have one option, and that's to get the fuck home.
Yeah.
Like you walk out of there at 11 o'clock and it's very safe and all that stuff. I'm not making out to be something that isn't, but there's not a ton there. Emilio's is on Houston Street. So by definition, Soho, NoHo, West Village, Alphabet City, Lower East Side, you have the world is your fucking oyster. On their side street, I think it might be Mott.
Mott, yeah.
They have a speakeasy, which anyone can go in and have drinks and whatnot there. But if you're in the know with Gaz and this gentleman, Neil, who again, wonderful fucking guy. I actually called him and thanked him afterwards. And I never do that. I'm very, very unthankful. You walk then through an alleyway over by the kitchen and you pop out in this giant private room.
With like, how many wine bottles were stacked? People thought we were like in the closet.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
seemed
It's
like
the
it,
wine,
yeah.
We're in the wine cellar basically, but
We had a corner table, which I love. Yeah. And for some reason, I think you were like dictating it. You were like, Lard, sit in the corner, which is the place.
Yeah, you had the view of everything. I was the guy that could get whacked. I was, the back to the restaurant.
Yeah, you were collateral damage.
Yeah, I could.
If they came in to wipe us out, probably with a Tommy gun.
Right.
Gaz is fucking dead. The dude from Queens of the Stone Age, Josh Homme, big tall guy. He walked in. I don't know if he's dating her, but he walked in with the girl from Ink Master, which is a show that I'm hooked on. I've been watching since season 1, even though I don't have a lot of tattoos. I just appreciate the artistry. There were all these little pockets where it was sort of a, is that somebody? Is that somebody? Right. No one said that about our table.
No.
Yeah, nobody gave a fuck about us.
One other time, I actually went in there, I don't know, probably it could be a long dinner. We did it a different way where we put in our pre-order because we had 6 people and things came out. But I've been in there before where you sit down at 6 and you leave at like 11 p.m. And it's just and that's the Italian dining. Yes. They want to slow it up and all that kind of stuff. But last time I was there, like James Harden was there. A bunch of the players were there right after the game. I know Taylor Swift always hangs out there. DiCaprio's always like it's a who's of where you want to be to sit and hang out.
When you go Emilio's Ballato, you're not going to see Taylor Swift. You're not going to see Leonardo DiCaprio. I am. Because I was in the fucking back room, right?
Like those people you just said, I don't even think I knew they were there because I didn't see. I was faced at the wall,
right? Exactly, and I was taking everything in. So you go into this place like somebody had said to me, "Why didn't you try this?" I'm like, I tried everything, and unlike you, I didn't see a menu. And believe me, I'm the guy that normally people give it's all I got.
Yeah.
So they'll give me the menu.
Actually,
like,
I don't know if we want to say how this actually all why this happened.
Why?
In the first place? Stu Feiner.
That's right. He bailed on us too, right?
I wanted my buddy Neil's a big Stu Feiner guy.
Okay.
And he had seen all the orders that Stu Feiner puts in.
Yes.
But he did research on what Stu Feiner usually orders, the clams, all these type of things. And he wanted to do that. And then Stu had to bail because of something that came up in Ablo with a travel thing. But that was how that all happened.
That's
so we didn't get to order. We didn't get to put anything, but we trusted
But I loved it.
And Emilio. Emilio's like, this is what you want to have.
And then Emilio took me into the kitchen. So I was able to walk around. And by the way, they are pumping out, I don't know how many tabletops they're doing tonight, but they are pumping it out. You get into that kitchen, it's Grand Central Station. It's immaculate. And it's a fine run. So if the old man is outside sipping on anisette and the young guy you think is just inside, complimenting your date, that's not the way this place runs. This place is efficient. And they operate at a very high level because the quality of everything from just the toothiness to the pasta all the way down to the veal was literally, there was no need to have a fucking knife on that table.
Yeah.
There was no need to it.
I think Devil and Patty was like best veal they've ever had. Veal parm. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. And it wasn't even like, so they do a veal parm. This isn't revolutionary, but they do it with, I believe, a vodka sauce. And then they put prosciutto on it before they finish it off in the oven. Before they finish the cheese off in the salamander, they blast a little prosciutto on top of it. And I'm telling you right now, I do that a lot, but I really meant it there. And I'm there with a bunch of relatively single guys or whatever. They were like, Large, bring this all home to your family. Yeah. So I brought home an incredible amount of food.
We had 6 of us. We couldn't do any damage to that. We did maybe half of it.
I think so. Maybe half.
The meatballs and
I'm the only one going through the fucking, like the pasta, homemade pasta before they left. And homemade pasta makes a difference. I don't make my own pasta at home. I just never have. But I love having it in restaurants. It's such a treat for me. And so anyway, so do you remember what we had exactly? Go through it.
Yeah, we had the chicken palm, the veal palm. We had a Caesar salad. We had some meatballs that came out early.
That's right, the meatballs.
Clams. I'm not a clam guy, so I didn't touch the clams. That was the only thing I didn't have.
Clams.
We had the spaghetti. It was spaghetti meatballs, right? We had spaghetti. They did
a regular spaghetti, like this homemade spaghetti, just the pomodoro. It was just a regular tomato sauce. which, by the way, we had Scott Conan on a couple of weeks ago. He made his career off of just a spaghetti in essentially a marinara sauce. So for people to do that, it's sort of like saying roasting a chicken. A lot of like chefs will say one of the hardest things in the world to do perfectly is roasted chicken. So when I go to a place and everything is done perfectly with a roasted chicken, it shows you how good the restaurant is. And I consider a tomato sauce the same thing. You can go nuts with all these different flavors and all this kind of shit. But if you could just put homemade pasta with a delicious tomato sauce in one of the bowls and have me doing that, like just twirling it all fucking night, like an animal, like nobody else was eating from it. And we were all friends. So it was all forks.
Right.
Nobody gave a shit. Nobody skeeved
Yeah, we were digging
anybody.
into each's.
Yes.
We each all had a fork. We're all going in the same bowl. We're not serving it. We're just taking it right out of the bowl.
Am I racist for saying this? That's very Italian. Don't you feel like Italian when you go to a fucking place?
That's the biggest thing I take away. The food is awesome. The service, it's the authentic. I feel like that's what I want my Italian experience. And you go to some of these other like fancy places, and I'm not going to throw anyone on the bus. Like, have great food, but you don't get that. You don't have his mom was there. His mom walked by and said, I don't know if you saw her. His brother's in the kitchen. His dad's sitting outside. He's shaking hands. He's bringing you into a private room. He's bringing you to get a drink next door after. You know, he's having a butt with you outside after. If you're in like, he's just you're getting that experience, that wholesome home feeling that you don't necessarily get at some of the commercialized places.
I get the feeling though, that Emilio, and I hope that he watches this, that if I turn my back for a second, there's a chance he could bang my wife. And I would be fun. He's one of those like handsome Italian guys that would just look me up and down and be like, hey, fat baldy, why are you with such a smoke show? Let me take you back by the Parmigiano Reggiano, whatever the fuck you would do.
And you start
He's
talking
a smooth
to him.
guy.
You met him for the first time.
Yes.
I've met him a bunch of times. Like I said, I've had dinner there before, but I've also I hang out more at the bar, have a couple of drinks, that kind of thing. But when he gets to know you, motherfucker, really,
does he?
It's the best. It's like, I feel like I'm in a movie. It's great.
I would never pull out my phone in a place like that to film anything but the food.
Yeah.
Like, because I think
you even asked before.
What's that?
You even asked,
I did.
It okay to film in here?
Yes, I did. And when we were one of the first people there, so I was able to get some B-roll of the room itself because I thought the room was beautiful. The paintings, the old school family paintings that they had redone, which is a real cheesy way of doing it, but it's just beautiful. So I was able to do that. And the only person that I took a picture of outside of our table is I'd asked them first, and it was Emilio, give me the thumbs up from across the thing. I didn't pan over and try to get Leo or Taylor Swift or anything like that, because I think it's one of those vibes that if you're there, it's understood that you can't harass people who are there.
Right.
You know, hey, what's it like to work with Dave Grohl? Like, none of that bullshit would have flown there. And there's only a couple places, to be honest with you, that I've been to where I've gotten that feel from, and this one was perfect.
I think that's why those people go there. It's a members club without without having to be. It's just unspoken. It's like an unspoken rule,
right? That
you kind of can go in there, not get bothered. That's why you're there, and you're invited because they know who you are, and you want to have that experience. We're talking about the back, but the front room. Anyone that's ever had dinner, there's people here that have eaten there, and they all get a great experience. But yeah, we had an awesome night. The night got a little away from us, at least for me. Yeah. But yeah, that happens. You go to the speakeasy for one drink after, and next thing you know.
So, and that's another thing. Then they walk you back through this back alley, and Gaz's like, it's okay to film here. And I said, you know what? Out of respect, I don't think I'm going to. Yeah. Just in case like a garbage can was open.
Right.
Because you know the fucking Zapruder film people out there would be like, oh my God, they're not recycling or something. Or whatever. Right. I mean, this is New York. You know, every now and again, there's these things called rats. God forbid there was a mouse or something in that. You know, places like that could get hurt with it. So I was extremely respectful throughout until I got a little drunk, and I was a little less respectful. But that was nothing that hurt my my chances in going back. I will tell you, the gentleman, Neil, who, to your point, had gone to preschool with Emilio. It seemed like these guys were in strollers together. I had said to him on the side, is there any way I could get like this set up myself? He's like, no.
Right.
And we back and forth, we were talking about sales the whole night, the whole deal. And again, very, very nice guy, but he knows that this is the type of table that just doesn't come easy.
You got to be with him. That's it. Like I'm very close with you. I've never gone without him.
Why are you so close with him?
I met him 3 or 4 years ago. And we just clicked. Like he's friends with some guy. It was just a good connection. And like we vibed right off the bat, both single guys. He's down to have a good time, very positive. You know, he's just a good dude. So.
And when you sit at a table,
He's got, like, I'm like, hey, I'm going to Nashville this weekend. You want to go? He's like, yeah, let's go right now. Like he's
he's one of those
up and
guys.
go. He's ready to go whenever, never says no about anything. Just always wants to have a good time.
When you sit at a table and with a bunch of people who are drinking, like old friends like me and Patty and Devlin and Gaz, like sometimes you tend to gravitate towards people. You almost forget that there's a guest. And not only is it a guest, he's the fucking host.
Right.
So at any point, the guy could have been like, over here, you know what I mean? But the guy is such a professional that he was able to let us drunken slobs sort of have our day at the water park without telling us to put on water wings. I don't think that was the best metaphor I could have came up with. But either way, so we had the veal, we had the chicken, we had the clams, we had, by the way, great little fucking bruschetta that they had on beforehand. No, it was a focaccia with like a real almost tomato pasty type cap to it. You know, when they bake down that tomato sauce in the oven with the bread. We had, I don't know, we had a great tiramisu.
Oh, yeah, for dessert. Yeah, we brought that out.
We had a great Italian cheesecake.
Yeah.
An Italian cheesecake, made with mascarpone as opposed to cream cheese. It did have a couple of the dried fruits in it that you sometimes see in a fruit cake, which turns some people off. I gave it a pass because it was so fucking good. So from beginning to end, and then I went into the speakeasy with you at Double Bailey's on the Rocks, and then hit the road.
Martinis at dinner.
I had
a couple of espresso martinis. That's probably what led to me being up all night. But
you were espresso martinis with
tequila.
Yeah, which I didn't know people do.
Yeah, I'm a tequila only guy. So yeah, I do it with that. It's up on up.
And so everyone started ordering. I'm not a coffee guy, so I'm not an espresso guy. Therefore, I'm not an espresso martini guy. So I was just going. I think I had 3 martinis, so I did vodka that night, and it was perfect. It was classy. It was delicious. There was a celebish type feel to the room. Mm-hmm. You weren't in a place that was kind of gritty to where somebody like James Harden would be like, what the fuck is this? It did have like a feel that they did want to cater to a higher class of people or celebs at least. And the whole thing agreed with me. I'm not sure if I would be able to go back and eat regular way there. I'm not sure I'd be able to wait outside for an hour like a fucking go at 3:30 in the afternoon and wait outside in the rain for an hour and a half like a
Ian's
fucking animal.
Do at some point.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah, exactly. Fuck that guy. Yeah, fuck him. Yeah. They don't have smiley fries there.
Yeah, I do think though. Next, I gotta put in. You gotta get him on the podcast, Emilio. He's great at talking about restaurants. Yeah, so we got to see if we can get that done. Have him talk about how they all got where they got because it's an interesting story and he'd probably love it. Hopefully he'll want to come on and talk about it. I'll try to get that set up.
Should I cut the part where I said he'd bang my wife or no? I think that's.
No, I think he'd be like, yeah, I would.
Yeah. He'd be like, show me a picture first.
I don't know. No, he might be. I think he might be married, but.
Oh, is he a married guy? Okay.
Yeah.
But just one of those things. So where are we going to next? We're just going to go over. We're going to do Keen's.
Yeah,
right?
we talked about that last time. We got to do the mutton. We got to go through all that. Yeah, I mean, I like to. As I get reservations like this, I'm always thinking about you.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about me when you put out your list on who you like the most at the company, but I'm thinking about you when I'm taking you up because I'm a company guy and I want you to have good food.
I've got more shit for that fucking list. And I mean, people who I barely talk to are like, where am I? Honestly.
Right.
And like, so guys has a little bit of a point. I just had a meal with them the night before I did the list. Yeah. And if you see the desks here at New York HQ, I sit directly across from guys.
Yeah, we're eye to eye.
Yeah, we talk for a good percentage of the day, and a good crew around him too, like his guys. But you were admitted for that for some reason. There's only so much room. If you were to make a list, would you put me on it?
No, like I said, if you didn't have a food podcast, I wouldn't take you.
I hear you.
This is a company.
But I will tell you, you had an idea. So Gaz is one of my bosses. And to a degree, definitely one of Ian's bosses. So you were thinking too, one of the things that you brought up, which I thought was good, is that as we have these random celebs come through this building, to put me in that car wash.
Yeah.
Because it'd be easy for me to have I don't know if you could name a celeb where I wouldn't be able to just say something off the cuff. Like, what's the greatest meal you've had on the road? What's the worst thing you've had in craft services? That type of thing.
And it's such a low impact question that like, who wouldn't want to talk about? You're not digging into their personal life.
Right.
Like, hey, what happened with the divorce? Like they get questions around here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's just like, just talking about food. Everyone wants to talk about food. So yeah, we're going to try to get some names in here as they come through the New York car wash. And I think that'd be great.
Okay, so I'm going to drop Neil's cell phone number along here, right along the bottom of it. Just text them, say that Gaz said it was okay, and you'll be able to have the same experience that we did. So I was telling people before you came in, Gaz, one of the things I'd like to do is if people on this floor have a great meal experience, to just do this for 10 minutes. Yep. And I think it's one of those ways that I can live vicariously through them or get ideas of where I should go to next.
No brainer.
So we're going to do that. All right. So that's it for Gaz. But listen, the star of today's episode, without a shadow of a doubt, even though he's never taken me anywhere fancy, is Andrew Zimmern. Again, I've been watching this guy for years. He's a hero of mine as far, and I know hero gets thrown around a lot, as far as being sort of like an influencer or a celebrity in the food world. So let's bring in Andrew right now. But before we bring on Andrew, just a little word from one of our sponsors, Cash App. For all the parents out there with teenagers, we know you're already trying to keep a million things under control. Cash App is here to make sure your teens' money and their spending isn't adding to that craziness. With the Cash App card available to teens 13 to 17 with sponsorship by an eligible parent or guardian, every transaction triggers a real-time notification for you to see, empowering your teen to practice independence while giving you peace of mind by keeping track of their spending. You can also manage everything directly from your own Cash App account without having to switch between the two. Finally, with Cash App, there are no monthly fees, no minimum balance requirements, and no hidden charges when sending or receiving money. With the Cash App card, you and your teens' balances receive 24/7 fraud monitoring, and if something ever feels off, you have the ability to lock their card right from your phone in just one tap. Parents, it's time to start focusing on your teens' financial learning and growth instead of stressing about the fine print. If you're ready to give your teen more independence while staying in the loop, start by downloading Cash App and setting up their account today. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code FAMILY10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's banking partners, prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. And with that, Andrew Zimmern. Welcome on back, everybody. So as promised, when I first started watching like the Food Network and stuff, it was so early in the game that I think I started with like the Frugal Gourmet, Justin Wilson, the Cajun Cook, and then it branched out and people like Rachel Ray became household names and Emerald obviously did. But at some point, as I started watching it, Andrew started to pop up and I became a almost religious follower of everything that he did. Going into Wall Street and taking people out to restaurants, it made my palate like expand, get a little bit more adventurous, so I could pull people away from the traditional steakhouse thing that we'd rinse and repeat. And there's nothing wrong with a good steakhouse. But I think it was one of the reasons how I was kind of successful in business and that I have so much fun in restaurants today. So I'm extremely proud to have him sitting next to me right now. It's Andrew Zimmern. Before I even start, is there any way you'd consider changing your name to Zimmerman? Because I fuck your name up more than any other name I think that I've ever had.
So does everybody else.
They do.
And I accused my parents at one point, 50 some odd years ago when I turned into a rebellious teenager, that our name was probably Zimmerman to begin with, and somehow it just got cropped off at Ellis Island. And it was about as mad as I've ever seen my father. He said, you need to be proud of that last name. And I learned, and subsequently it's benefited me amazingly in very personal ways, that anyone who has the last name Zimmern is related to me.
Okay.
Literally related to me. It's a closed line. There were from Germany, 3 sons. One went to England, one went to France, one stayed in Germany. This is 300 years ago. The one in England, they made their way to I believe Australia. Interestingly enough, it was the German line who were butchers who made their way to the United States. Were supposed to come into the port of Charleston, port of New York, got blown by a storm to the port of Charleston. This is pre-Civil War. They were butchers, meat cutters, and fed both sides in the Civil War. Eventually, Atlanta was burnt to the ground by Sherman, and they marched to New York and made furniture for the next couple generations. But the really fascinating part is they were an old medieval guild of people who put the last layer of varnish on intricate woodwork, which is so crazy. But I've been I was just a couple years ago at the Cayman Cookout down in Grand Cayman, and there was a regional manager for Moet, who was there, and he said his mother's maiden name was Zimmern, and I said, "How'd she spell it?" And he said, "Like yours." And I like Zimmern. He's like, yeah. I go, we're related. So now whenever I see him, he's my cousin.
That's awesome, though,
I know.
Right? Yeah.
I know.
You know what? So I'm a McCarthy. Mm-hmm. My name is Michael McCarthy. My dad is from West Cork, Ireland. He was Ireland. He was born on an island off the West Cork of the west coast of Ireland.
Beautiful part of the world.
Yeah. When you go to Cork, everyone's kind of tall. I had dark hair at one time before my wife robbed me of everything that was, whatever. And so there are so many McCarthys. It's the exact opposite. We're like dog shit. We're everywhere. To where when I bought my first house, my wife has an interesting last name. Her name is Ann Harvey. So there weren't a lot of other Harveys. You have to sort of sign off saying you're not this Ann Harvey, you're not this Ann Harvey. So there might have been 7 or 8 of them. Then when it came time to Michael McCarthy, apparently we're all scumbags, and we never returned anything at Blockbuster. We never did. So I had to sign off 813 names before I was able to buy my first house that I didn't return. So I'm telling you right now, I'm a good person. Stay away from Mike McCarthy, because we could be an absolutely dastardly lot. So just knowing that you have almost like a closed loop on your last name already makes you infinitely more interesting than Scott Conant. So to have Scotty in here the other day, you said he's a very close friend of yours.
He's third best kisser on the Food Network.
Yeah, really?
He's a little handsy.
He seems like it.
He's handsy.
I will tell you what he did, though. He has a new sauce.
Yes, he does.
Jar
Delicious.
sauce, Matone. Yeah. Matone Street or something. He brought them in, 4 of them. And as he was sitting here and I was interviewing him, I was just doing hits of this sauce cold out of the jar.
Yeah.
And it's an elite sauce. And it makes me angry because when I was in my old industry, I spent tens of thousands of dollars taking people to Scarpetta because that's just when that simple dish became one of the hottest dishes in New York.
Correct.
And then it comes, and I was always like, wow, I'm overpaying for this, just like everybody in New York does.
1,000%. And
he comes in, he brings in a couple of jars, and I fucking fall in love with them reluctantly.
I will say, Scott is the beneficiary of some really amazing food tech as well. A decade ago, you would have had to have raised the acidic level in the sauce and added other stabilizers that the technology now allows you to avoid.
Okay.
So his sauce tastes so clean and so bright. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I hope he's very, very successful with it. I think he will be.
I hope somebody else gets successful from it and he gets bilked out of his money just to sort of knock him down a peg. Is that weird to say?
No, not at all. I mean, I know his wife and kids, so it's a little different.
They seem like they're set up, though.
You never know.
Okay.
I mean, we're all a bunch of shysters.
Right. It's wonderful that you say that to me because there was a time. So I grew up in Brooklyn. There was a time where jarred sauce was just so taboo. And
heresy.
And it would give me the sour burps. So it was a shonda, I think some people might have called it. Yeah, right. It was terrible.
That's what my grandmother would have called it.
Yeah, and me. And it's one of those things where it's all of a sudden got the acclaim, not the acclaim, it's got the legitimacy that it never had before. And I didn't realize that's the reason. You don't have to pump it full of chemicals.
Well, it's they would keep creating sauces and shelf stabilization mechanisms by playing around with acidity and pH balance in food so that you could cook it under pressure with a minimal amount, but you could still taste it. It wasn't the same thing.
Right.
And it's the exact same thing as the piece that I wrote in the New York Times about PFAS, these forever chemicals that are in Teflon. The fact of the matter was it's so easy and it should only take you anywhere between 15 and 45 minutes to make a great tomato sauce on your own. and then store it in the fridge or freezer, Ziploc bags. Whenever you need it, you grab one out, and every month or two, if you use it a lot as a base for other things or just on its own, you have it. So why would you need to buy a jarred sauce? The fact of the matter is that so many people, increasingly with every year, cost, time, convenience become such big factors and affect our food system in a really profound way. And so personally, I'm thrilled that for those that want to have the choice, they do not have to make one from scratch, because now there's a good one.
Yeah, and there are a couple.
And my buddy made it.
Yes.
Now, the hurt, because we are close. The hurt that I'm experiencing, that I still do not have a case of the sauce on my doorstep.
Right.
And I will see him at some point this weekend.
Right.
I will probably see him tonight or tomorrow during the day somewhere, because while we're recording this, it's New York City Wine and Food Festival weekend. I will see him and I will shame him tremendously for
and
there
I will
not being
use
sauce at my house.
I will use my small distribution to clip that right there and tell Scott Conan, I'm embarrassed for you that you haven't already sent a case, because I've never met the man before, and I get a case to the house every other week.
Every other week.
Yeah. He's really pushing this shit on me
he
too.
likes
You know
tall
what I mean?
guys.
Yeah, he certainly does. But even when I told you I spoke to Greeny too, he did something with American cheese, and I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. He has this New School American where he replaced a lot of the citric acid and whatnot with like butter and cheddar and milk, all these foreign things that people don't like. He sent me some to my house. It's fucking elite.
Yeah,
it's
great.
An elite cheese, makes the apron, everything that you need.
It's great cheese.
And it's one of those things where I think now people don't have to settle for the second day ragu burps that particularly the Irish had, because they weren't able to make Sunday sauces, or they didn't. But I make a Sunday sauce every week, so I'm not in any kind of deficit as far as red sauce goes.
So, because you threw in the word Shonda there.
Yes.
So you're an Irish Italian Jew.
Yeah. So I was a lifeguard in a mikveh. That's a joke, but people won't get it. Growing up where I grew up.
By the way, that's a ritual bath for observant Jewish women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They usually don't have a lifeguard.
It's a very shallow tub that they're soaking in.
Yeah. But I went to Brooklyn College.
But if there was a problem, you'd dive in there.
I'd be right in there.
100%.
Yeah. I'm sitting there. I'm the only guy. I still put the
100%.
stuff on my nose in case they ever let any
Just
sunlight in.
Yeah.
So growing up where I grew up in Brooklyn, and that's why I can't speak highly enough about South Brooklyn. I'm very biased in that respect. I went to high school on the Lower East Side, a little place called LaSalle Academy, which is no longer there on 2nd Avenue and 2nd Street. But between my parents were brought up, my mom in Dublin, and like I said, my dad was a farmer and a deep sea fisherman in Cork. And then to have me over here with the benefits of growing up in New York at a really fucking cool time.
Yeah.
Like being born in 1971 and kind of going
second
through
coolest time.
Yeah, behind you, which was what?
61.
61. But still, like, so we walked a lot of the same streets in and around the same time, going to school and passing my CBGBs every day.
Yep.
Walking, being able to go to Katz before it became a half-hour line and a $40 sandwich.
Yep.
It was just an easy thing for me to go to Russ and Daughters in the morning. And I think it's one of those things that it's kind of shaped me. And so when people ask, what's the best food city in the world? I had heard you say there's an argument that it could be just Queens, right?
No, that's wrong.
Please correct me.
That's incorrect. I have said anyone who thinks it's something other than Queens,
Okay.
which is just one of our five boroughs, proves my point that there is no city on planet Earth, and I have been to all the big ones.
Yes.
In anyone's top 200 list, I've been to all 200. All right. Have I been to every city in Azerbaijan? No. But I've been to 170 fucking countries, so yeah. I mean, and you tend to fly into capitals, and in a lot of minor, smaller countries, I should say, there aren't that many places with a hotel and restaurants and that sort of culture. I mean, Mongolia is the most sparsely populated country on the planet. Mm-hmm. And Ulaanbaatar is a great place. And I love it there. But, the food scene pales in comparison to the
Astoria.
one on this block.
Yeah.
It's a milk and meat culture. I love it. It energizes me when I'm there, and I love Mongolia and its people. But the diversity of food, there's like 6 things, right?
Right.
And my point about Queens, I will debate with anyone, and I've said this for 20 years. I'm going to bring it on, and no one has yet to challenge me on that. And look, I'm on record. Tokyo, Hanoi, Bangkok, Chengdu, Chicago, Los Angeles. You want to name Rio. I mean, Mexico City. Geez, Louis. I mean, I don't know how you parse greatness in terms of food between the top 40 or 50 cities globally, because the minute you start talking about another one, you're like, oh yeah, but fuck, Santiago, Chile is some of the best seafood on planet Earth. And they also have some of the best game birds. It's a tiny, skinny country.
Right.
But, the coastal scene there in the Pacific Ocean is only rivaled by the diverse topography on the interior of the country, rivers, mountains, streams red-legged partridge, incredible fincas, these farms where they have some of the best beef in the whole world. I mean, the Santiago, Chile, don't sleep on Chilean food when it comes to a really great eater's paradise. But they all pay everything. It's literally New York, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and then everyone else. And my point, to get back to those that aren't following, this
is going to be the whole thing, by the way, because I'm fascinated by everything you're saying, so much so that I think this might be my last episode, because I'm a fucking fraud, Ian. So the thing is, I can say that New York's the best city in the world. I've been to a couple of countries. I've been lucky enough to go to a couple of countries, and I've been around this great, country of ours, but I don't know anything. And I'm immediately,
I disagree
5
with
minutes
that.
into this, I don't fucking know anything because of you, asshole. I'm too old now. I can't catch up.
No, that's not true. You're insanely curious. I've just met you.
Yes.
15 minutes ago. You're very curious. You have the humility to be teachable, and you've just said something that took me 30 years of living on planet Earth to even begin to think about uttering, which is the concept of, I don't know blank. Can you tell me about it?
Okay.
I mean, I had so much ridiculous ego and was such an imposter. I was really a deplorable human being and a user of other people and taker of things for a long time in my life. And then, the first half and then the last half of my life, I've been, a glorious, sainted human being.
I'd like to keep you around to like 120.
Yeah,
so I think it's
I
more
hope
like a third.
I hope so.
Yeah.
My family would like that.
Yeah.
But the point that I wanted to make about Queens is that I always point out to people when they say, well, is New York really still the greatest? I'm like, look, there are, hundreds of ethnicities within the borough of Queens, represented in populations of 5,000 or more, that keep cooking for subsequent waves of immigrants. Right?
Yes.
So when you want to have the best Greek food, don't go to the place on Yelp. That's, Yelp is just crowdsourcing idiocy and amateurism. But when you go to the Greek markets there and the guy who's got 40 different kinds of feta cheese in front of you starts walking you through them, and you say to him, where do you like to go out on date night? Where do you take your wife or your girlfriend? And he says, I go around. You go there and have roast. You would think that you were in Sifnos or in the Kyklades or in Delphi or wherever they're cooking from. Queens is got more magic. The only Burkharan bakery outside of Central Asia is in Queens, where they're using 600-year-old wooden dowels to stamp the individual breads and the samsas, those cabbage and beef rolls, before they go into the tandoori-shaped oven. There is Queens alone is proof positive. Then I remind people that's one borough. One borough.
Would you? And you're right. So it's one borough. What's the least attractive borough culinarily for you? Because I don't think you've ever said that. And I can't wait to hear what your answer is. Because I will tell you, growing up in Brooklyn.
Least attractive. Brooklyn is phenomenal.
Yes.
Great food scene. Lot of great
neighborhoods.
Phenomenal cultural representation there, and growing and changing. At one point, I was going to live in Brooklyn, and I told my grandmother when she was still alive, Grandma, I was like 20 years old. I was I'd been kicked out of school for a while. I was going to cook in a fancy restaurant here in town. And, she said, where are you going to live? And I said, a couple of friends of mine and I, we're going to go to Brooklyn. And rents are cheap there. I mean, this is 1980. And she said to me, don't go to Brooklyn. You're going to break my heart. And I said, why is my living in Brooklyn going to, she goes, our people spent generations trying to move out of there. Why are you moving back in? I hear you. Yeah. But there's phenomenal food in Staten Island. And I thought that was going to be your last one. I don't want to get a lot of letters.
You are going to get one. I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to get you hated just the way that I'm trying to hope that Scott's sauce fails.
But I believe in answering a question in reality, or with some truth and reality. And if you had to lose one borough from a food standpoint, it would kill me. There's some amazing Jewish delis, some great Italian food, but it would probably be Staten Island. And that's only because, and I love Staten Island for other reasons. I've written about this in several of my books. The Darwin's concept of islands, that genetically things are slow to arrive there and things are slow to leave, is true with food. It's why Sardinia and Sicily have their own types of food that's so much different than the rest of Italy.
Okay.
As an example, and those are islands that are well traveled, right? It's why those islands off the coast of Ireland, if you go there, there will be cheeses there that are only made on that island, right? And the Faroe Islands has traditions, off the coast of Denmark, that still the only place. I mean, there are other places where they try to make the Faroe Islands air dried, lamb, but they can't. Right? Because the wind isn't right. The saltiness in the air isn't right. They don't even salt the lamb. The air is so humid with salt water and it's so windy, so it kind of makes it dry. It blows this moist, salted seawater onto the legs of lamb in these special houses where they regulate the wind through the slats in it, and they let the lamb dry for 2 years. And you basically eat lamb prosciutto. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. But
can you write that down? I gotta get that shit now. I have to get lamb from the Faroe Islands now. You just sold. Let's go. Me. You just.
But by the way, that's not even the best food in the Faroe Islands. The best food in the Faroe Islands is the seafood because there's no pressure. There's so few people that live there. There are mussels and oysters the size of your thigh.
Really?
Oh my God, it's amazing. And you literally, in our show, we went with a diver to go get this, and we were like, "Oh, we all arrived with our equipment and safety gear and all the rest of this." He goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "We're going diving for this list 8-9 different types of shellfish, right? To dive for huge." The guy looks at me. He says, "I let go of the rope on the stern of the boat. The wind pushes us out so that the bow of my boat is still on the dock. The stern is in the middle of on a part of the bay where it's like 15 feet deep instead of 8 feet deep. Right. And we just step off the back and go down and collect whatever we want. So we dive down. I'm there in my mask and my dry suit. Yeah. And we are pulling up some of the most incredible shrimp, crayfish, mussels, oysters, clams I've ever had in my entire life. The best seafood in the world, other than the Skeleton Coast in Namibia, which I still think has the best seafood I've ever tasted in my life, might just be in the Faroe Islands, although they have less choice than they do down in the southern part of Africa. But I'm losing my track here.
No, you're not. The thing is, there is no fucking track here.
Staten Island is an island.
Yes.
So the culture has stayed there. It's deep, but it's not broad.
Okay.
Queens is both deep and broad.
Brooklyn.
The Brooklyn, deep
and huge
and broadish. The Bronx, broad, maybe less deep, but some of the best Central American. I mean, you want Dominican, and Caribe food. You want great Guatemalan or
Fritos. We go up to the Bronx.
Yeah. Certain African communities.
Okay.
They're the Kenyan food scene up in there. The Nigerian food scene in the Bronx is insane. So
the Sophie's Choice at Staten Island gets in the back of the head.
Yeah. I mean, if we're playing marry, bang, kill.
Yes. Marry, fuck, kill. Queens, I'm not putting out of it. Manhattan, Brooklyn, or Staten Island. I gave you that choice. I took Bronx out of it because you had said that it was shallow, but whatever. Broad, but less deep. So I said shallow.
Yeah.
So marry, fuck, kill. Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Staten Island is getting killed.
Well,
I
marry Manhattan.
Would you?
Yeah. In half a heartbeat.
But so Manhattan, though, still, and as a guy who's been here forever, it's still 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. Tough to get around.
Yeah.
Prices go up as soon as you go through an expensive tunnel. You don't think that there's a little bit of an allure to be someplace more where you have
my birth.
Okay.
Too much shit has happened for me here. I have the history here.
Right.
Yeah,
but still, you got out.
What kind of amateur left his phone on?
Yeah, we'll have to cut this out. You know what, Scott Conant, you're back on my good list.
It's my lawyer.
I should heard about Staten Island.
I should take a call from my lawyer for on air.
Yes.
No, if you're and I would. I mean, of course, you fuck the hell out of Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a sexy, hot. That's
good then, right?
And you got to kill Staten Island. So I mean, you left me no choice but to marry Manhattan.
Yeah, that's right. Although a good session with Manhattan and you go home to old reliable Brooklyn every night.
Not bad.
Yeah, so your Gumata is that little island, right? That's overflowing out of her dress, right? We could kind of say that because there's too many fucking people here. And then you go back to the woman in the big dress.
You're not
wrong. And then you
wrong.
put two in the back of the head of Staten Island.
You're not wrong.
You had said something about cooking, and I don't think that people recognize enough just how good of a and I'm talking about people from 30,000 feet, because when you mention that you're coming in, they're like, oh my God, I love everything that guy eats. I don't know if people can really appreciate how much the quality of what you cook. Where do you put yourself as far as your how strong is your chef kung fu right now?
It's very strong.
But comparatively to when you're working in restaurants, bringing yourself up and doing all this stuff, this is where you are right now.
Because
the YouTube channel and all that stuff.
I am my knife skills and my kitchen acumen, my decision-making process is probably at its peak right now.
Okay.
When I'm cooking alone and experimenting with recipes, I've never been more creative and never been more precise. And I've never been more finely able to replicate what's in my mind, because I've been cooking. This is my 50th year taking a paycheck from a restaurant.
Wow.
50th. Started when I was 14, summers, working in a seafood restaurant in Long Island. And it takes that long to develop techniques where, it's kind of like playing music without, with sort of just someone hums a few bars or you hear a melody in your head and then you can play it. So I'm at that point in my food life where and I've seen a lot of shit. That's the when people say, what's your greatest talent as a food person? And it's something actually that Michael Voltaggio said to me when I first met him, when he was cooking at a hotel in Los Angeles prior to opening Inc. And, this is an early episode of Bizarre Foods in LA. And I had some friends who were chefs who said, this guy's a talent. He's going to be something. And, so we did a little something on air together, and I was doing something with razor clams, and I felt like someone was looking at me. I looked up. We're supposed to be cooking together, and he's like, just staring at me. And I said, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "I'm just watching you." He said, "I've just learned like 5 things," and I'm like, "For me, And he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "What?" And he mentioned how I was working with these razor clams. I said, well, I learned that from grandmothers in a tiny little island in the Venetian lagoon where they collect these things, and they open the razor clams by dipping the tip of the clam into a little pile of Venetian sea salt. And the clam instantly opens, and you have like 3 seconds to scrape with your finger. The whole clam and the juice comes out, and you discard the shell. Mm-hmm. And then what you've done is you haven't used hot water. You haven't left any meat behind. You haven't damaged the meat at all with even the tiniest knife. And some of the razor clams there are very long and skinny, like a pencil with a really brittle shell. And I've never forgotten that moment because it made me realize, first of all, it was very sweet of him to say, but it made me realize as I continued to travel and learn and eat, and I really am insatiably curious about food, that my greatest superpower is asking questions, learning so many things in so many different cultures and cooking things so many different ways that I think at this point in my life, I am both broad and deep. And that's a really special place to be. I was cooking a charity dinner in a Michelin star restaurant in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. And the same thing happened to me, a chef who I respect immensely, who made one of the best dishes I've tasted in the last 10 years, a chef named Ron Su, and his co-chef Aaron Ginsberg did a chawanmushi for a progressive dinner with 8-9 other chefs from all over the world. That was the best version of this seafood chawanmushi I may have ever had. That includes being in Japan.
When was this?
It was so perfect, like 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm on the board of a nonprofit called Giving Kitchen that helps provide relief to food service workers in crisis, givingkitchen.org. Please visit and give. But Ron and I I said, hey, we'll donate a dinner to this charity. We'll cook a dinner together. And I did a stuffed lacquered quail with 7 jewel fried rice, but I made it with sticky rice and then stuffed it inside these quail. And then, we went through a process to get there. But eventually what wound up on the plate was this glistening honey and soy sauce lacquered quail stuffed with this 7 jewel fried rice. And I put it on a sambal that I learned to make from a Malaysian grandmother that had chilies and lemongrass in it. Right. And that was it.
That was it?
There's no crispy garnish. There's no little colored oil. There's no
hot honey.
So, right. But seriously, you raised it. The reason I'm not laughing is not because I'm not amused by that, but as you age, it's what, you've heard this cliche. What element are you taking off the dish? Right. So yes, you should have all great food is made up of contrasts: hot, cold, soft, crunchy.
Sure.
But sweet, sour,
sweet, salty. Yeah.
Spicy salt. I mean, you can just keep going. Right. So I built in about 20 different levels of contrast into that dish without putting a garnish on it. Like, let's put something crunchy on top. Okay. Right. That's the difference between feeling like I'm really in my time. And it was, by the way, it was a gamble that I took. My first 5 books that I wrote were not cookbooks. And I put a lot of food out on my Substack and a lot of food out on my website. No paywall, andrewzimmern.com.
andrewzimmern.com.
But, we're sitting here and we're staring at, my 6th book, which I co-authored with Barton Seaver in collaboration with Fed by Blue, a nonprofit that I've worked with over the years. And I made the decision that I wouldn't start doing cookbooks until this time in my career. And the reason was, and this is not a knock against anyone else, this was my own personal choice. I wanted to be able to be very secure in what I cook, how I cook it, what my flavors are, what techniques I use. And I didn't want, for myself, I wanted to make sure it was right. So my next 3 or 4 books are all going to be cookbooks.
Okay.
This is the first of them.
I now, there was a time where, as a follower and a fan of yours, I said, I'd love to have him sit down at my table. Like I would love for you to
When are we
sit
gonna
down
eat?
at my
Let's go
Sunday
eat.
table. And I've since you've sat down, I've rescinded that that invitation.
Why?
I just think that I consider myself good in the kitchen comparatively to most mere mortals. I don't know
Can
what
it be
the
potluck?
I don't.
Can we cook something together?
I mean, I could. Believe me, it would be an honor. But my problem is that I don't know if I could give you a full experience. Do you feel like when I first started in pornography, it was kind of missionary, and now I need to see some stuff now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
We
you
all
gravitate towards that.
It gets worse.
Yeah,
Wait
that's
another
why
10 years.
Yeah, that's why AI is such a blessing. right?
Fantastic.
Yeah. But so I feel like that's kind of you. Can you taste the grilled cheese anymore?
Yes, I love it.
Or is it like jazz? The notes that you don't hear
No.
is that whole thing. So how can a ham and egg, maybe a slightly elevated above a ham and egg type cook, impress you? To come to my house as long as
Very much so. As a matter of fact, it's mostly the ham and eggers that impress me more than the people that are trying to impress someone.
Okay.
I tell people all the time, cook what you love to eat. Start there.
Mm-hmm.
Repetition. Keep it simple. There are some folks who are hobbyist cooks. For them, the fun is like doing a 10-hour Jacques Pepin recipe on a Sunday or Thomas Keller recipe on a Sunday from the French Laundry Cookbook. Fantastic. I do that same thing too, right? And I have all the cookbooks from the 3-star Michelin Spanish chefs who cook in a way that I do not.
Okay.
Right. And I love spending a Sunday watching football. If you walk into my house, you actually walk into the kitchen.
Was that an invite?
And it's anytime. You've never been to Minnesota. You should come.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
The kitchen opens up into the living room on the backside, and I can stand in my kitchen and watch my big screen and the fireplace and the snow falling, and I can cook all day on Sunday, and that's my happy place. And I love doing that type of hobbyist cookery and, curing duck for a month to make, duck prosciutto and hanging it in the refrigerator in the garage and making soups and doing dinner that night maybe would be something that on and off I'm working on all day long to kind of make right. But I think for most home cooks, it's like cook the 20, 30, 40 things you really love the most,
right?
And master those and then use those same techniques to bring in other flavors.
I find that your stories, I have a comp to them, but they're all not as good. Like I remember I worked with a guy, Vinny Romeo.
You're comparing how you feel inside to how I look outside.
I think I am getting too. I think I'm internalizing way too much.
Yes.
But there's a guy, a beautiful man. His name is Vinny Romeo, Vincenz, and he used to tell me Staten Island Guinea all the way through, like the beautiful kind.
Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah.
You need 10 million more of them. And he used to go to, I think, his uncle's house. And while his parents were inside having like an Entenmann's cake and some, espresso, he'd take his tricycle and ride around inside of his uncle's garage. And then when he'd go home, his parents would have to change his shirt because they were hanging dried sausage in there. So that porky oil would drip on a young Vinny as he was going around. And that's my Faroe Island dried lamb to a certain degree, except mine's a small Italian on a tricycle.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Lucky enough to did you eat any of that?
Years
sausage?
later, he brought it to us, and it was transcendent.
It is transcendent, right? And this is the beauty of food. And I've written a lot about this too. My favorite chapter in my first book was called "The Last Stop on the Subway," and the idea was you want to have the best food, go to the last stop on the subway. And I actually drew the same comparison that you just made. I said, you want to go to I call the Faroe Islands the windy edge of nowhere. It really and truly is.
Okay.
I mean, you're in no wonder in Norse mythology, the Faroe Islands was the end point. Can you imagine seeing this in the fog in like the 3rd century and these giant mountains rising out of the oceans and this incredible wind, and you can't sail past it because you don't have the right equipment to do so. And these storms come in. You were literally on the edge of a flat earth, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you're praying to whatever gods you're believing in.
Yeah.
And yet, to have that same experience, sometimes you just need to take a bus across the town. And that's why I called it the last stop on the subway.
The subway, yes.
Because for me, in the 60s, we moved from Sutton Place, where my parents had a small apartment for the first couple of years that I was around. And when I became like 2 or 3, they moved to 71st Street, which is where I grew up.
Okay.
And
East side, west side.
East side.
Okay.
My grandmother was west side. My grandmother lived and died on the same block.
Oh, really?
She grew up at 400 West End Avenue, got married at 19. Her husband moved her across the street to 411 West End Avenue. She died in that apartment.
That was it.
But she was everyone walking up and down Broadway shopping on a Saturday afternoon with my grandmother was like walking around with Jewish royalty.
Oh, really?
And by the way, you mentioned Russ and Daughters and Katz's. 5 generations of Zimmerns have eaten in both of them. And the families that run those places are friends of ours for that reason. The Russes, Tuppers, Fettermans, who are the Russ and daughter, and those are, they're like family to me, because their grandparents and my grandparents lived and ate together and breathed and talked. And it's a wonderful, wonderful sense of being. But when I was little in the 60s, we'd get in the subway or the station wagon, really depending on what day of the week it was. And we would head out to Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. And it's 2025. If you go there early in the morning, you will just hear Italian spoken.
Yes.
Right? Now, there's a lot of tourists that go there. There's, people have moved into that neighborhood. It's some second generation, third generation Italians continue to live there, so they're speaking English. However, back in the 60s, you would come out of the subway and there would be people with sticks with 10 pheasants hanging off the end of them, taken to the butcher store to sell them.
Yes.
Where they would be dressed and people would go buy them. And all you heard was Italian. And I remember going to some of the pork stores out there, and obviously the very famous one now, the Calabrian pork store, which is there, that has what they call the meat chandelier, which is just that every inch of the ceiling is crowded with dripping stuff. And when you walk in, there is a sign that says, "You enter here, we do not pay for your dry cleaning," because so many people, have been dripped on.
With Vinny's oil,
To me, it's like getting shat on by a bird. That's a sign you're going to have the best day of your life. There is something about just getting out of your comfort zone and moving to whatever that last stop is, as far as you can go, in search of something a little more authentic, a little more honest. It doesn't always mean it's better, but it's a pretty good chance it's going to be great.
Are you pissed that it's not like that to that degree anymore?
Yes.
My mom used to put us on the subway. My mom has never driven a car, and I think the world is a better place because of it. I don't think she'd be very good at it. So we used to hop on the subway and we'd go into it was almost like the Schmata district to get our winter coats every year. And then whenever anybody had to get a engagement ring in the family, you'd either go to the Diamond District or you'd go up to like Muncie, New York, which is a heavy Hasidic Jewish place. You walk into there and it just had that feel like you were in a different fucking culture world. Not only a country, like a world. And I don't see that as much anymore without traveling a far way.
But that's why travel is transformative. And, I've predicated my career on the fact that you are the best version of yourself when you're traveling, because you ask more questions, you're more curious, you're going to take more risks, you're going to be less in a place of self and more selfless because you're feeling more vulnerable. You're going to learn something. And if you're half a human being, I know some people who are just friends of mine who are just so not a human being. They come back and it's like, what'd you do? I just sat on the beach and drank Mai Tais. Well, how unfortunate is that? But if you're curious and you're willing to be teachable, you export what you've learned on that journey back into your home life. Little by little, you're building a new structure for yourself. And I'll give you a great example.
Please.
You can go, what's the most touristy, disgusting place on planet Earth? Oh, I'll give you one, Cancun.
There it is.
So the hotel district there is about as awful as it gets.
Okay.
Right? I mean, just lots of discounted rooms. Everyone's sitting on the beach. It's overcrowded and everyone is eating shitty guacamole and chips and salsa. And I don't care whether it's the Ritz-Carlton or further down the strip at the Best Western, it's all the same fucking trash, right? And margarita machines,
right,
with shitty tequila that are made with prefab mixes.
Yeah,
it's all the same shit, right? And giant buffets.
The Mexican Myrtle Beach.
If you cross the highway behind you as you're facing the ocean, there is a town of 1.2 million people where the majority of the employees who are serving you during the day live, eat, play, get married, celebrate life, have their kids' birthday parties, die. And some of the best food you will ever eat in your life is there because so many Mexicans come from all over Mexico to work in the hospitality industry there. You will find treats from so many other states in Mexico that the food there is really special. You just have to get off your ass and wander into neighborhoods that are working class. And for some people, because they practice contempt prior to investigation, all the way up to outright racism.
Practice contempt prior to investigation, which is a very good way of saying racism, to be quite honest with you.
Well, it's a form. I mean, it's a form of contempt prior to investigation is what many 19th century philosophers felt was human beings' greatest evil. We judge something before we check it out. And I've learned as a traveler, shut up, ask questions, and get ready to have your mind blown because you're going to see things that it is this pervasive and evil human trait that we have that continues to close us off from the rest of the world when in fact we have so much to learn from the rest of the world. And as someone who's been with so many people on so many journeys and in homes and met and hung out and lived with tribes. I mean, I've lived with 23 of the 87 most protected tribes in the world for more than a week at a time.
Really?
I mean, it's really special, rarefied air.
You've led a blessed life, by the way.
Yes, 100%.
From the quiet clam to being with 23.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I am very lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, I will. Well, let me finish.
Go. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No. The fact of the matter is that, judge not, because the humblest, most impoverished people who, as I sat there spending days with them, with a Sakalava fisherman, in Madagascar, his home, blew down. A series of little grass huts blew down in every storm. He had 9 or 10 kids. Half of them died before they reached the age of 15. There's no refrigeration there. He goes out and he gets fish and he trades it for what he needs. On the outside, he had to work this canoe. He had to put one of his little kids in the sail of this little canoe, and the kid would put his foot against the gunnel from the outside facing in because he didn't have any ropes to pull the mainsail.
Sure.
Okay. And he got a fish, big king mackerel, with a spear while the boat is moving 10 knots. The fish is moving 20, one shot. I've never seen anything like it.
It's amazing.
We captured all this, his story on camera. His name was Jama. And he gave away all the fish to the market because he needed, that was his job, except for the head and the tail. And then he wanted to feed the 7 or 8 crew members and myself and his family. So like 14 people. So his wife made a fish broth with like water, a couple of leaves of something from the jungle, and the fish head and tail. And she served it to us in little chipped cups that she dug up out of the sand. They hid it in case robbers came, one of her only possessions. And my heart was breaking for this guy. He was cutting bait with a piece of rusty metal because he would use whatever he could or found to practice his craft until it just turned to dust.
Right.
I wound up giving him one of my knives. I mean, I would travel like 8 or 9 knives.
Sure.
Right. And I had a fishing knife with me and I gave it to him. But we were standing, having a private moment, looking at the ocean. And I asked him, and I didn't know the cameras were rolling. They were rolling. They left it in the show. And I said to him, "Are you happy?" And he looked at me and said, "What do you mean?" And so I started to define the word happiness for me. He goes, I know what happiness is. He says, "I just can't believe you would ask me that question." And I just looked at him and I said, "Well, you've lost half your children." Sure. And I go down this list of things. Everyone has one pair of clothes. Yeah. You're naked when you're washing them in the ocean. And he looks at me. He says, "I love my wife. She loves me. I have my children that have lived. My life is simple." He says, "Look at what I'm looking at. We're sitting there on the coast of Madagascar looking at this insane sunset, right? Eating fish, drinking fish broth." Mm-hmm. And he looked at me, he said, "I have everything." He said, "What do you have?" And and then he walked away from me. And I've never forgotten that because he knew what I had was indecision about it. And I want to explain what that indecision is. I get angry and resentful today over the things that I have to do that 34 years ago, when I'm a suicide survivor, when I tried to kill myself and wound up getting sober instead, right? Because I lived. Those were dreams. Those were my biggest dreams. Yeah. I walked out the door this morning to start, 5 weeks of book tour, and I mumbled something less than enthusiastic about it.
Sure.
To my family, and they looked at me and they're like, "You're the luckiest motherfucker." And I had to remember, yeah, I am. These were my dreams 25 years ago. And 30 years ago and 40 years ago. Right. And I get to live them. Our concept of happiness, or mine, I should say, was transformed by talking to people like Jama. Right? That's a gratitude maker. It's not a gratitude breaker.
Right.
And you learn from those people, and it gets exported back into my life here in little bits, and it keeps getting reconfirmed, and it changes who you are. Travel is transformative.
Do you think Jama would do this podcast? Because I could use a little piece of it. My second question is, then will you want to get there when you decide to stop writing books? When you decide to stop being involved or pulling a paycheck from a restaurant or stop being everywhere, is there a chance that I'm going to see you on the beaches of Sewataneo cutting a mackerel with a rusty stop sign? Do you know what I mean?
I would hope so.
Is
I
that,
would hope so,
because it's impossible to think that I could ever do that.
No, I think, and I have this argument with my friends all the time, I think I'm a die in the saddle guy.
Okay.
And I don't mean that in a perverse way. I just think I'll slow down. I'll keep writing books. I'll keep talking. I do so much work for nonprofits. I'm involved with so many global NGOs. I have programs that, and pilot programs, feeding kids in schools in Zambia for the UN World Food Program. I've got a women's seaweed cooperative that I'm about to start working on with a group called Alta Sea in Zanzibar. I was just in a meeting with my UNWFP liaison this afternoon about what country I'm going to next to start a pilot program in, because I'm trying to make the world a better place. That was the goal of the Blue Food Cookbook, right. Was to try to make the world a better place and eat more sustainably using a resource that, if we manage it well, will feed a hungry planet. The green economy won't. We're burning up too much land. We're using most of it to grow feed for animals to feed us. We're literally eating our own planet. We have to stop that and start farming more in the ocean and managing our wild fisheries better and growing the blue economies around the world and eating more seafood. It's healthier, it's more sustainable, and it's a program for living that really works.
Can I interject though? Even if you don't give a shit about that, the people who are listening to that, I've gone through this yesterday. Jake Lasovsky, gentleman who does some of the editing over there, we went through the cookbook, and it's also a fucking fantastic cookbook.
Yeah, it's 145 great recipes.
It's also saving the world to a certain degree. If that's not your thing, and you just want to have delicious food, and you're like, fuck the earth, but still buy it, because I think it's one of those things where it's I agree. It's not. Because I can tell you right now, if I listened to the beginning of this podcast, I wouldn't buy a cookbook from a guy who was lacquering quail. And I don't even know if I used that fucking verb right. I don't know if I think that is it, lacquering. I think I've lacquered a pot at some point. This isn't that. This is one of those things where I can make that's why I thought I would be able to have you over my house. I can make you one of these dishes.
Yeah, 100%.
I can't start stuffing whatever the hell you were doing at the time.
I could show you and you'd go, man, that's
easy. Yeah, that's what I find to be most of the time. Whenever I just get over that hurdle of trying, to your point, traveling, visiting, asking questions, going off the beaten path.
Well, our brains lie to us. They tell us things that aren't true.
And everything is more scary than it actually is when I'm doing it. Can I ask you a question? Anything. Are you part of the fucking problem? Because we now have a generation of people who feel like they know everything and they haven't done anything or been anywhere, but they've seen your channel.
Yes.
So like now, hey, Large, you want to go to the Faroe Islands at some point? No, I've been there. Oh, have you? Yeah, I spoke to Andrew about it once for like 20 minutes. So now I got the whole experience. I just got hit in the face with like saltwater air with lamb behind me, because you are a very visual speaker. So you do transport people to these places. And that's enough for a lot of people nowadays. And a lot of people maybe can't afford to travel.
There's two sides of that.
You're the problem.
I am. And it's probably the most intelligent question anybody's asked me in the last 15 years.
Ooh, clip that. Thank you.
So much so that I wrote an editorial about it for, my hometown newspaper, about the responsibilities of celebrity chefs in a day and time when so many people are hungry. And I use the genocide in Gaza as an example of that, because I heard the news on in the background while I was writing some recipes up. Recipes that was going to be like, hey, Shazam, it's Sunday, let's make, and meanwhile, half a world away, there's, 1.2 million people starving to death. And I actually have a foot in that camp with the United Nations World Food Program, trying to make sure that people in crisis and conflict zones around the world get fed. And my friend, one of my best friends, Jose Andres, has World Central Kitchen is having people shot, while they're trying to deliver food to, people who are hungry. And I believe that hunger is a basic human right. No one deserves not to be fed. And so I wrote this piece about this, what do you do with that feeling? Right. And it drives, and I answered it that it's why I do so much nonprofit work, and it drives a lot of the other things I do, because I'd like to think that while I'm part of the problem, I'm feeding more into the solution bucket.
Okay.
However, when it comes to fetishizing food, when it comes to creating a pop culture based around collecting the wampum of meals in restaurants and in street food situations like notches on bedposts, I am definitely part of the problem. I joked with Tony before he died. There were some restaurants that we both went to in the same countries that would have both our pictures up, or in back-to-back years we would both have visited. One of them was a laksa shop in Singapore called Mary's Laksa. And when he and I went there was always a line of like 30, 40 people. They made all the noodles from scratch. They made all of the broths from scratch, all the ingredients that went into this incredible, rich curried coconut milk soup with noodles and shrimp and other seafood in it. And they only made enough to, for like 100 to 150 bowls. Right. So the locals would line up knowing they wanted to get some of those bowls. And, they opened at like 10 a.m. and they closed by 3. Right. And and I forget which one of us got there first, but one got there first. Then the next season, the other one went there. And I hadn't been back to Singapore for like 5-6 years after that. And but Tony was still alive. And I called him from the show because I got online. There's like 400 people online. Mm-hmm. And I'm not one of those guys that walks inside and says, hey, you know, I'm here. And I enjoy being on the line.
Yeah.
Right. I'm talking to people. It's an experience. And one of Mary's daughters walked out, and I vaguely recognized her. She'd grown up quite a bit. And she just starts hitting me in the chest and the arms and screaming at me in a Malay tongue. And she slowed down enough and then started speaking English to me. And basically she was saying, screw you. You and your friend ruined our business.
Really?
And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, you're crushing it.
Yeah.
And she's like, everything was fine. We had 4 burners in the restaurant.
They were Jamba.
Everyone made their thing.
Yeah.
We all took our $20 a day and went home, and everyone was happy. Now, because you guys came here and you know, it was hot when one of you came, then the other one, I mean, and everything just blew up. Now we have to make 1,000 bowls a day, and we won't, you know, compromise the quality. So we have to do all this other stuff. And we wound up all having a good laugh about it when I was, you know, inside the shop. But it was the first indication that I had that, you know, if I do a story at you know, a friend's fancy 3-star Michelin restaurant, they're booked all the time.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give them more business.
Sure.
But when I go, you know, if I post something tonight on my Instagram about whatever slice shop I grabbed a piece of pizza at, or where I ordered Chinese food and said, hey, everyone, go there. It matters. It carries weight. People go there. And with that comes a sense of responsibility. But what also comes with it is a feeling that maybe you're feeding the wrong beast.
Because you have such a, like, you have turned people into the most, when they haven't done what you did, but speak like you do, it's fucking annoying. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
no.
It's
I
one of those things.
those people
and
all
then
the time.
If you're also going to be considered now by Mary in a Malay tongue, you're essentially like a private equity firm that came in there and fucked everything up.
Well,
like, so it's with great power comes great responsibility, Stan Lee. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things.
But by the same token, you say to yourself,
I'm trying to do it, so I'm being hypocritical.
You know, I'm just a guy. I'm just a food guy.
Yeah.
I'm just a cook. You know, you think of yourself in much, you don't see, and this is the blessing and the curse of the state of media in 2025. We all make shit in a vacuum. Sure, you look at your Instagram numbers, and I'm sure some of these creators and who where it's their pure livelihood.
100%.
How many followers you have dictates how much you can charge an advertiser. They're probably looking at their numbers, or their team looking at their numbers. But I know everyone whose face is on camera has a huge ego and no self-esteem, because that's my situation.
Yeah,
so
it's
like, I'm sure they're looking at their own numbers. I find this fascinating that we make things in a vacuum, and then it hits you. You don't realize the impact of it until people start telling you stuff, or you see comments, or you start realizing later on, a year down the road, that, you know, you bump into the person from that banh mi shop, and they're like, oh yeah, thank you, man. I mean, we were on fumes and out of business. And then you kind of feel good about yourself. And I'm lucky I've had enough people say thank you than people who've said screw you.
Makes up for the annoying aunt or something like that. And you know what? I find that there's a parallel with that with the gentleman I work for. I don't know how familiar you are with Barstool, but Dave does that pizza stuff. And the pizza, which started almost as just a filler, has turned into a phenomenon.
Yes,
and I think there are a lot of great people who are able to have a better lifestyle.
Yes.
Just because this Jewish guy from Boston, who I've spilt more pizza than him in my lifetime, but yet every time I'm on the shitter, I see him and I'm like, that's a 7.2. Like I'm fucking rooting like I want to be that guy. And he kind of changed the face of a lot of small businesses in particular. And that can't be replicated.
I think it's fantastic. And I'll even go you a step further. He also created something very unique in that with the whole one bite thing.
Yeah.
Because there are a group of people who would say, well, you have to savor, you have to see how it sits on the palate. You've got to eat the slice. How is the dough when it cools down? How is the sauce? The flavor is going to change as the temperature drops. Your mouth is going to process flavor differently as fat begins to coat the interior of it. And there's all kinds of reasons that I could argue at least eat half the slice. But as someone who has done their share of what I'll just call professional eating, out there on the road where I'm tasting things, the minute you take a bite, sometimes I just have to look at it and I know.
And that's his only comeback to you. Like you could get into the molecular gastronomy how the sixth bite, everyone knows the rules and he'll just come back one bite. Everyone knows. I don't know what's so fucking difficult for you to understand.
And bite. By the way, when it comes to making content, replicatable expectation is what the audience wants. So his clips, and I will say I've never seen them on YouTube. I've only watched them on Instagram.
Okay.
But I think they do exist on YouTube.
They exist everywhere. Yeah. Right. He's got the best distribution I've ever seen.
Yeah. But I see him, it's just him walking out of the door, opens up the box. Sometimes the wind is flapping the box up, and he takes a bite, and then the number comes up. It is perfectly digestible. I use that example, the pizza thing, when I'm talking to people about making content and they're like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and AI and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know something? Look at the most successful shit out there. And I don't like to say, happy accident, because I think we make our own luck and you get inspired to say something. I use the phrase, if it looks good, eat it, as a joke in the pilot of what became, we didn't even know we were shooting a pilot. It was a proof of concept. We didn't even know it would air. And it became the cat in episode, the second episode we ever made, but it was the first one that was aired after the pilot. I didn't say it. We had to put it in his voiceover. The network said, don't ever not say that on camera. Like our audience just spiked. I mean, they're showing the pilot in Vegas in this room with 500 people. And hey, if it looks good, eat it. And people are like, where? On the little dial.
And then for 20 years after that, people were yelling it to you from across the street, right? Like if it looks good, eat it.
In foreign languages. The show still airs in 140 countries. In some countries, it's still airing every day. In Italy, I go to Italy, Orari da gustare, the best translation of bizarre. It's called The Horrors of Eating.
Oh, really?
It's fantastic.
That's perfect.
It airs every day, Monday through Friday.
Horrors of Eating.
Same in Chile. It airs in the People's Republic of China. I mean, it's an incredible thing to have been a part of.
I mean, to be honest with you, it's just.
So I am walking down the streets of, Boston, and a group of Japanese tourists in a bus, and they start screaming at me, if it looks good, eat it, with heavy accents, or they're just screaming at me in Japanese, and I know exactly what they're saying.
So then how do you feel about the influencer culture right now? How do you feel about when back in the day, if it was the New York Times, you would go to New York Times food reviews, I think, and then Zagat's, and now nobody goes to that anymore. They would just go to TikTok or Instagram and put in, I'm going to Puyol in Mexico City, and then you get 30 people.
Nice flex.
That's not a big deal, is it? So Ian and I were in Mexico City and I would tell you, it was one of the worst moles I've ever had. That mother mole that people swear by, I did not enjoy it at all. I enjoyed everything they put on the table. I enjoyed everything about my experience. We stayed in St. Regis. Yeah. There's another little fucking flex for you, Andrew. And then we had a nice meal in the Animal. I had a great taco and a couple of taco stands, including one. I was there covering a NASCAR race. I didn't enjoy Puyol as much as I thought, at least not that mother mole. But it's one of those things where I'm glad that I have the experience of being there, even if I'm not necessarily going to tell people to go right after me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Hold on 1 second. Enrique? It's AZ.
No. Oh, that's terrible. This guy's a stud. Yeah.
I
didn't even like the presentation. Are we gonna? Am I gonna shit on Puyo again?
I have lots of people who have these experiences. Let me tell you what my take is on what your question is, because I think it's really important territory to cover. It's like the 1970s and 80s Olympics with the East German women's swim team. Okay. And I love swimming, diving, ice skating, judging from that, because they would always throw out the high and the low score.
Yes.
It's what's in the middle that matters, right? So a long time ago in the 60s and 70s, I think we were so trained to only getting our reportage from one source. It was not very democratic. And there were a lot of elements of elitism to it, not only with what types of places were being covered, but more importantly, forgetting that different people in America have different food lives. And in fact, 20% of Americans have no food life whatsoever. They're technically hungry. Right. So now we've swung the exact other way. And I made a joke, the people at Yelp, for 20 years, as long as Yelp has existed, I've been shitting on Yelp.
Yeah.
And because I think it just crowdsources idiocy. However, if you can relate to whatever source you are using for your information, then continue to utilize that source. And I think the democratization of media of all kinds, digital on your laptop, social, YouTube, 8,000 channels on, we don't even call it on your monitor, wherever you're soaking that in, I think is a good thing, because you can find your tribe and see what they're liking. And if you're a 25-year-old living with 3 roommates in an apartment in Brooklyn, you have a different food life than the guy that you worked for on Wall Street. Yeah. Right. Back in the day. Of course. And everyone's food, we go to different places. We look for different things. And at different times in our lives, we look for different things. And I think the glory of democratization of it, do we have too much? Yes. Do we have a lot of people who are using it to make money who know nothing about food? Absolutely. And I love calling them out. So when you mention this creator and influencer world we're in, there are a lot of people out there who know exactly what they're talking about. And I think we've now have given them the keys to a car that I'm thrilled that they're driving. And then I meet some of these people at these events. I'm going to meet a whole new crop this weekend at Food and Wine Festival. And I'm going to, be, smart, great person, knows their shit, complete moron, knows their shit, moron, knows their, and it's hysterical to me to play that. But how can
somebody do that? Like, you can do that because you've eaten everywhere and know everything. But for somebody that wants to get to that point, the influencer space, which I'm part of, so I'm being hypocritical here, is a lot of people who are getting paid to do their things. Like, I just saw Enrique Apple Pay you. I just saw it on my phone as soon as he saw me shitting on his fucking place. No, but so it's leading people down the wrong path because it's turning into a Kardashian thing.
Yes,
they just get more.
Me off.
Oh, good, because it pisses me off as well.
And I have called some of those people out. I do it privately. I don't pull the Tua piece and start opening up my mouth on SportsCenter. Degrading my teammates. There's some stuff that belongs in the locker room. If you look behind my boat in the wake, you can see the bodies bobbing in the water of the unconscious people that I've taken to task backstage at various places where I bump into them, and they're like, "Hey, it's great to meet you." And I'm just like, "Love to meet you too." But let me tell you something.
You're a piece of shit.
No, I don't say that. I let them know that with their platform comes responsibility. Okay. And some people are entertainers. They're there to supply humor, or they're making fun something. And we're not talking about then, but the people who are pretending to know what they're talking about and take it seriously and going out and doing reviews in restaurants and stuff like that, I think, have to consider whether or not they are causing more problems than they're solving, or vice versa.
Right.
If you're solving more problems than you're making, God bless you. I don't care if it's 51-49. If you're on the positive side of things, you have my blessing. But yeah, there are lots of people who don't know what they're talking about. Look, there's lots of very famous people at the big kids table in the food world that have no idea what they're fucking talking about.
Do you see it all the time? Do you see people where you're like, this guy, I think I'm going to use the word too, fraud? Is there a lot of frauds within? So when
Not a lot.
Okay.
But there are.
Okay.
I mean, here's the thing.
So would you lick your chops if you saw them?
Manufactured by different media companies to be food people when they don't have the chops, no pun intended. And all the other people at the big kids table know. And by the way, the big kids table ain't that big.
Right.
There aren't that many of us. So, those of us who are lucky enough to have gotten there, as other people are coming up, who's real and not, and who's not.
You can't tell from 30,000 feet. You can't tell. I'm telling you right now, I don't.
Because it's manufactured. It's the media. They use editing. Right. That's why I love. And I'm not saying this because I'm here. That's why I love it's why I'm a sports obsessive. The game is the game. It's why the only thing that's pissed me off in sports in the last 20 years is why all of a sudden now, because of the business model, ESPN is now reporting pro wrestling like it's a legit sport where the outcome isn't known. Right. If you read their reportage, it's
like they're covering a lot of events.
It pisses me off. Yeah. I'm just like, what do you mean the outcome was in doubt and so fought the best match of their lives?
Deep.
I mean, this is, what are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, look, I was at WrestleMania 1. I mean, I'm a huge old school 70s wrestling fan.
All right. So if you want to go down this fucking road, so Ivan Putski was probably one of the greatest wrestlers that ever lived. I had my first, so I'm a heterosexual male, but for probably about 6 months, Tito Santana almost got me to jump the fence. I went into my parents' house. Yes. Mom and dad still live in Gerritsen Beach, Brooklyn. I went in there. I pulled out an old knapsack. It was filled with the solid rubber dolls. Yes. They sold these dolls for low. It's like Big John Studd, Andre, Roddy, Hulk, and you're talking before that when we were kind of watching
Chief J
Strongbow, fucking Bruno Sammartino, because you're so fucking old. Like I'm telling you, that was the golden age for me. Yeah. And if you watch it now, the athleticism, though,
it's insane.
I'm embarrassed that I thought that that Jimmy Snuka was the height of athleticism, where he'd be just kind of in the middle right now. Right,
kind of in the middle.
Did we just go on a wrestling
entry level? Kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and it is amazing. I watch. I'll flip through and I'll watch. Yeah. I just find it hysterical that ESPN is reporting it as if it's something that was in doubt. Yeah. But my analogy about sports is that's what I love about sports. We don't know how it's going to turn out. Right. A lot of the food stuff that you're exposed to in the media world is manufactured. It's edited. Some shows do a better job than others about making sure that the competition in competition shows is actual competition. And, people always ask me about Tournament of Champions, which is one of the many shows that I regularly am asked to judge a few episodes of. And they always look at me and go, is that real? And they're always expecting me to say no. And I'm like, one of the realest.
Yes.
Because they are so insistent. The producers and Guy are so insistent that is as squeaky clean. You get the food hot right after they make it. You do not see. You're kept sequestered away. They're watching us eat their food. We have we get the judges, we play a little game when we're walking to and from our trailers of like, do you think that dish was so-and-so? Because some people, I can eat Manish Chauhan's food and know it's hers all the time. Jet Tilla's food, I know it all the time.
Right.
Sometimes you taste a dish or a sauce that someone pulled out. Leanne Wong, who's an incredible chef, she made something 2 or 3 years ago in Tournament of Champions. And as we were leaving, someone said, who do you think made that thing with that orange sauce? I said, oh, that had to be Leanne Wong. And they're like, how do you know that? And I'm like, well, that's a Jean-Georges Van der Richten sauce. And, of all the people who show up on these shows, I think she's like the only one that worked for him at that time, if I remember my food history correctly. So I'm like, who else would know to do that?
It's culinary forensics,
right?
That's called.
No,
yes.
that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
And so we play this game and I had to wait like 6 months to find out because I wouldn't even text her I wanted to be surprised when I watched it on TV.
I'm glad you said that because
some shows do a really great job, and then there are other shows that they just don't care, and drives me crazy.
I do see it, and we always wonder. I did have Chef Michael Ferrara on the show. I had done some stuff with him when he had the restaurants in New York, so he came back, and he told me with Iron Chef even, they give you an idea of what it may be. And you don't know until you kind of get on that and they do it. But even like sometimes when I'm watching Beat Bobby Flay, and I would imagine if I was a guest judge on that and they put something in front of me that had pickled Fresnos and crispy rice, I would know it's Bobby's dish. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you kind of can see, you don't need to pull the curtain apart to see the wizard.
What's fascinating is Bobby is such a gifted chef, so talented and can cook. You talk about someone at the height of their ability. He loves to use certain flavors on the show. He loves to use certain tricks. If I was cooking in a competition show as regularly as he does, you'd fall back on the same shit. As a matter of fact, I did on 2 different shows. Well, actually 3 different shows. I made the same sauce that I've not seen anyone else use because I know that I can make it and the judges are going to go, holy shit. I don't even know how he did that, but that's fucking delicious, right? And it is, so you wind up going into your back pocket for the stuff that's really, really good. But Bobby is such an accomplished culinarian and he's so savvy a game player that I've cooked a couple times on that show during special.
Yeah, like the holiday specials.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. I've seen you there. Yeah.
So I really felt on the Hanukkah or Passover special, I forget which one we did.
Yeah, the latke special.
I thought I got him. Mm-hmm. I got him. And it came down. He beat me like a point or two. Mm-hmm. And there was one judge who was, I think she was North African. And you don't know who the judges are, right? But you see them around and whatever. And I saw her and I still chose to do the salmon in one direction.
Okay.
And Bobby did his in a saffron broth. And I'll never forget sitting there in front of the judges and having her, talk about my salmon like, it curled her toes and she needed a cold shower right afterwards. And I'm thinking, yeah, I got this. Right. And then she's like, but Bobby, that tomato saffron broth was even better, and I was like, motherfucker, and it was just that type of games. But he is so talented and so good. People think because he's been doing TV for so long, they forget how many great restaurants that he's had over his career, which is why I loved his last cookbook project, because it's going back through his career and cooking things out of the history of
from the old menus.
Yes. And I just, I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I mean, he's been my friend for decades and I deeply respect him.
Can I fanboy a little bit then and continue? Because some of the competition shows I get hooked on. I was a huge fan of the original Iron Chef.
Me too.
Raksubaro Machiba, I think Hiroyuki Sakai, Chen Kenichi, like all these guys.
Morimoto.
Yeah, Masahiro Morimoto, absolutely. And all those guys kind of, if they made food that I wasn't even sure I could appreciate, right? And then it's gone from there, in a whole bunch of different directions. Some of them are good, as some of them are bad. I wonder, the greatest chef in the world would probably shit the bed in some of those competitions.
100%.
Because it's a different skill set.
Whole different skill set.
And if I have to say myself, and I'm going to ask you this question, who do you think's the best at those competitions? Because I unfortunately don't think that person's around anymore, because I thought Anne Burrell, her kung fu was very strong in that, to be quite honest with you, and she was a violent competitor when it came down to it.
Yeah,
but
you either have that, you either love that shit and you're able to think brilliantly, or not.
Who's the best, do you think, that you wouldn't want to be across the way from?
Well, I mean, there are a couple people who I've competed against who are so insanely brilliant at creating food that pleases judges and satisfying the requirements of that particular show.
Yeah.
Regardless of what show it is, they have a clarity of thought while the time is ticking by that is really, truly amazing. Antonia Lafaso, probably the young generation. Mei Lin, one of the...
She's elite.
Jet
is also...
Her food is absolutely insane. I think she's one of the best young culinarians. She's not... to me, she's a young culinarian, even though she's been cooking for quite a long time. And I'm just sort of going backwards generationally, and I'm obviously I don't have time to list them all. Manit is a brilliant competitor. Alex Guarnaschelli has one of the best palates of any chef working today in America. And she is, primarily cooks now on TV. But she grew up cooking all over the world in a home. Her mother's one of the most famous food editors in the publishing world.
I did not know.
And she has a knowledge base and system about what's right about food and how to construct it that is extremely enviable. And I've cooked I just last year did Eric Wildcard Kitchen.
Okay, yeah.
She was one of the people. Jet was actually the judge. Rocco DeSpirito, Alex, and I all competed. It was a lot of fun. I will say, and I had the chance to both, cook with him on Iron Chef in the first doubles competition I think they ever did. Morimoto and I cooked against Bobby and Marcella Valladolid.
Oof.
And battle whistling salmon.
Jesus.
And
battle whistling salmon.
Yeah.
I'm watching it tonight, obviously, so no spoilers.
Morimoto, and by the way, I judged that generation of the show 20, 30 times. There was no one with Morimoto's skill set. If he wanted to just do all French food, you'd think that, Alain Ducasse was behind the curtain. I mean, Morimoto's skill set, his creativity, his knife work, his ability to cook in a range of styles, I've never seen anything like it. From a food pleasure standpoint, where every judge would just be like, "Oh yeah, man, that's pretty." Michael Simon, it's why he's so rarely lost in Iron Chef of that era. I think Bobby got better after he left Iron Chef.
So a guy like Michael Simon, a Cleveland guy, right? I mean, I've been to Lola and Lolita back in the day. I had a pig's ear salad there that I absolutely loved it. I got much better than that Peugeot. So, and he was. So do you think that his cuisine is better in the restaurant than it is when he starts competing? Like, I don't
think
know.
so.
Okay. So he has that consistency throughout all platforms.
He's so creative. I
love Michael Simon.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, he re-emulsified a hot dog dish once on a competition that I thought, okay, this is jump the shark.
Right. Okay.
There's no way. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Delicious.
I have the pleasure of being able to do a food show here at Barstool. And it's sort of building off of what Dave did with that lightning in a jar with the pizza reviews type thing. So we're trying to just broaden that out with like a Viva La Food type thing. And you got to try this and all that. But they stuck me with a producer who has the palate of a 12-year-old. Mm-hmm. Like, what do I do? Because I have a 15-year-old daughter, 18-year-old son, 20. Promotion. But what do I do with this guy?
Attraction, not promotion.
Yeah, is that it? Explain to me what you mean by attraction.
Let it go.
Let it go. Just let it go. I just want, and he does have a pretty good palate, but every now and again, I'll catch him at home making, smiley fries, and I think he does taco meat
Nothing
3
wrong
times.
With that. There is taco meat 3 times a week.
More.
I'm downplaying it because I respect the kid. Yeah. He does a very good job. There is no me without this guy. I don't know where I end and he begins.
Oh, I love that.
But what do I do?
It's like Brokeback Mountain.
It is. And a little bit like without the hats. Right. So, but is there something that you think is universally approachable from all of your travels? I would never have you on this show to ask you what was the best dish you ever had. I would never have you on the show, even though we spoke about the Queens thing, because I know you had spoke about that before. I would never do that. But is there like a universally approachable dish that's also got a Zimmern feel to it that he could go out and say, hey, listen, I wound up having this thing. It's called durian. It's actually very good, but it's not durian, obviously. Right. But is there something? Give it to me.
Wow.
Is that a tough one?
No, it's a great question. I think a lot of critter, whether it comes from the forest or the ocean, falls into that category. And I'll give you an example. I would just assume eat my black bean clam recipe in this book is one that I developed after eating the dish at Woe Hop downstairs.
Yes, of course. Institution.
For the entire length of the existence of that restaurant.
Right.
I mean, I went when it opened with my dad. And I love clams and black bean sauce.
Elite dish.
Fantastic, right? But when you go to, northern Vietnam, well, now all over Vietnam, because there's so much travel within the country itself has increased. You can now go to these seafood restaurants. They have 40 different varieties of what they call snails, but they're different shelled animals. Mm-hmm. Some of which come in pretty exotic shells, different types of whelks and sea snails, and some cockles have 2 shells and they open. It's a bivalve. These are not.
I tried to fucking contribute. Did you see what I just did? He's talking about snails, so I said cockles. My dad's been calling them cockles. It's like Game of Thrones type shit. The way he grew up.
Yeah,
shot me down in a fucking second.
And I'm on your show.
Yes,
I'm on your show.
And this is my first night in prison. Honestly, he's fucking bitching me.
You can go out to Queens. And have some of these dishes in seafood restaurants out there, Vietnamese, Thai, Chinese. They will have a lot of these where they're braised the right way, they're sauced the right way, and you would never think, really, I'm going to pull this squiggly piece of meat with this silver toothpick out of this thing and the sauce, and you put it in your mouth, and you need a cold shower right away.
That's what you're getting.
And I think on the flip side of that, you can't get it in a restaurant, but I've taken friends on hunting weekends down to West Virginia, where I still sneak away. I'm obsessed with West Virginia for a lot of different reasons. But you go there at the right time of the year in fall on the right ridges where there's just beech trees on the top of these ridges with the beech nuts falling. And the beech nuts have twice the fat that acorns do. Okay. The squirrels on the top of those ridges are fat and plump. And you shoot 15, 20 squirrel, skin them, break them down, and you dredge them like you were frying chicken, giant skillet, make pan gravy with black pepper and cream and a little bit of onion.
I can do it.
And I would just assume eat that squirrel as any meat on planet Earth. It's that good. And
I've never heard that before. I've heard so much about hogs being fed, from different chestnuts. And so you can actually taste
all animals, them. But see, all animals, they eat, they all taste what they eat. I was in Colombia
I've learned that from you, by the way. You're like, if you're going to eat bottom feeders, you're going
to. We're at a mango farm in Colombia, and the farmers set traps at night around the edge of the trees they don't pick. They just let the fruit fall rotted to the ground. And I'm like, what are you doing there? It's like, well, we kind of use it like bait. These giant rodents, there's 4 or 5 different species, mostly this one that's called a hutia. It's basically like a cross between a rabbit and a mouse, but it's the size of like a terrier. It's like a nice 12-pounder.
Okay, so it's not like a nutria. It's small. No,
okay. 10, 12 pounds.
Okay. It's a nice size.
Yeah, nice size. They let them feed night after night after night on these rotted mangoes, and they let it go as long as they can, and then they put the traps out. And these animals basically finish themselves on mangoes. We then went back to this restaurant with this hutia, and he said, this grandma's going to cook it up. She just stripped it out of its skin, twice fried the meat, served it to us. You could taste the mango.
Really?
In it.
Yeah.
The same way that the hogs in Cuba, they trap the wild hogs. They don't shoot them. And they feed them for a month, just coconut dates from the trees.
Okay.
They cut down every day and feed them so that the animals, the meat is sweeter.
Right.
The Samoans do it too. That's why all of those Kahlua pigs that the Hawaiians and the Pacific Islanders make, the true ones, and it's why the luau ones suck. Oh, I shouldn't say they don't suck. They're just not the real thing. Is that you have to finish the animal on these sweet fruits so that the meat caramelizes on the rocks 5 feet below the fire in the ground.
We're going to get this guy.
And I think once you start to eat some of that stuff, you go sort of like, okay, maybe taco meat is not what I'm going to focus on.
That's the whole deal. Like, I want to get him to the point. And again, I make it out to be worse than it is, Ian. I understand he's about to defend himself, but I would say he never ate relish before me. Ian's a nice Jewish boy, too. Took him to Rutt's Hut. Have you ever been to Rutt's Hut over in Clifton, New Jersey with the Rippers and whatnot? And I'm opening him up I probably worded that wrong. I'm opening his palate up just a little bit at a time, but I'd like to make that leap without giving him a koi in a Colombian restaurant in Queens, right?
Go to, something, go out to Queens to some of these great Chinese restaurants. Yeah. And just.
It's a good entry drug.
The Chengdu, the Sichuan restaurants out in, actually there's some great ones here in town. It's just that you don't get some of the traditional food. In Chengdu, they do a spicy chili rabbit dish. It's a classic Sichuan dish. Start in on rabbit and work your way down through the critter.
Yes, exactly. Stop going up in them.
But if I fed the two of you squirrel at my house in Minnesota, you would be licking the bones.
So we had mentioned before how we both think that Queens and I think New York as a whole is the best food city. And I told you how well traveled I am within the United States. Kind of, not comparatively, but I think comparatively to the average guy. It's not a huge
vibes on me. And
I've never been to Minnesota. And one of the things that I used to do back in my old profession is I used to go to the Iowa State Fair every year. Yeah. To take out guys from PGI.
4th or 5th best state fair in America.
But did you just take my favorite state fair and you put it 4th or 5th? You just threw me down on that.
But I didn't know what you were going to say, but it's 4th or 5th.
Minnesota. Their state fair, is that number one for you?
Easily.
Where are you?
Not even close.
So what, outside of the Juicy Lucy's and the this and the that, is there something that I need to know about Minnesota? We're going to just bring it back because I'd like to go to Minnesota and do an Andrew Zimmern type food tour, because I trust you as opposed to Yelp.
Anytime you want to come.
I would never bother you with it. I'm being 100% honest, but I would like to go around and see.
Come out. My friends call me almost every day that the state fair is running. A different group of friends from out of town flies in because they're sick and tired of hearing me say that it is the single greatest cultural event in the world.
Wait, I'm sorry. I lost my focus there for a sec because I was telling him how much we need to start doing perhaps state fairs. I don't think it's one of those things that it'd be a limited series or something.
It's States Fair.
States Fair. Oh, yeah, son of a bitch. Now he's going after my fucking grammar. But I'm trying to do it. But I missed what you had just said. The Minnesota State Fair is, you didn't say arguably, you said is the greatest what?
Name a better one.
Is it? In the world?
What do you?
You didn't go.
I've been to all of them,
but you haven't been in a I don't know, a dark street in Kazakhstan and turned a corner and all of a sudden it was the greatest street fair you've ever seen.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, where somebody was cooking entrails on a fucking hubcap somewhere. That's what I'm saying.
That was my show.
That was it. Yeah.
No one. I mean, we're the only people who ever shot a show in Kazakhstan. I'm a fucking national hero there.
So you're telling me I'm going to get a lutefisk fritter in Minnesota, in Minnesota State Fair that's going to knock my eye out compared to that?
It's
I'm saying you can't say
food.
best anymore.
The food is not, to me, the food is the second or third best draw there.
Okay.
But the food there is better than any other American state fair. And, having been to all the other big events around the world, Oktoberfest, Lantern Fest in Thailand. I mean, like all these kinds of things. You have 12 days on a 170-year-old permanent fairgrounds with buildings that architecture students from around the world sit in, the cow barn, and just draw the ceiling. Because the time it was built, it was the largest cantilevered, wood-supported brick roof in the world. Mm-hmm. We still have the 4-H barns, all separate animals. So it's, chickens, cows, goats, sheep, pigs, all in their different barns with the 4-H kids sleeping with their animals, showing them. Mm-hmm. They're rated. They still do that whole thing. We have a year-long competition for everything from crafts and quilting to fine art to who makes the best maple syrup, the best honey, the best cakes, the best cookies. 400, 500 categories in the creative activities building for food alone. Mm-hmm. Every type of jam, jelly, syrup, pickle, everything. The rides, the concerts, 100-year-old grandstand with concerts every night with,
They bring out some people too. Like all of a sudden, I didn't know Kansas was still around and you're listening to Dust in the Wind or something like that, right? Is that one of those things?
You've got Kansas one night, which is hysterical.
Yes.
Right? To go see them.
I saw them in Iowa. That's what I'm saying.
And then, the next night is like the Black Keys.
Oh, okay,
right?
cool.
So it's very cool because they try to do something for everyone. So there's always a great country act, a great rock and roll act, a great oldies act, a great, brand new music act, whatever that genre is that year. And it is also, Minnesota is a small enough state that the whole state does turn out for the run of the fair. I'm obsessed. I go almost every day. But I walk up on Machinery Hill. It started, 160 some odd years ago, like all states fair and county fair, as a place for farmers to come, exchange news of the day, tips and things like that. There would always be church services. There would always be a big barbecue. Right. And the Minnesota State Fair has always been in that spot, has just grown into this millions of people over the run of the fair day, hundreds of thousands of people every day. The food gets all the pub, but it's the people and all those other things that are there. Some days I'll just go and sit in the Miracle of Life building and watch farm animals being born.
Do you think that's the most American thing, whatever that means to you? Because when you had mentioned the cuisine from this fair, is the first time you mentioned something that there was nothing exotic in what you had mentioned with the food there. Then when you had mentioned, how it went back to farmers being able to almost have an annual meeting, it just seems like it's dripping with
Talk
Americana.
Politics. Teddy Roosevelt gave his Speak Softly and Carry a Big Stick speech at the Minnesota State Fair.
I go to Talladega every year for the races, and it's decidedly the most Southern I feel all year long. And it's not particularly close. And I've lived in it, in Georgia and stuff like that. That's the most Southern. I feel and I don't think patriotic is the word at all. I think it's American. Like, I feel like it's one of those things that I don't know if they do them like that.
I don't know what American is anymore. I do
you feel most Minnesotan?
I do feel very strongly that the food of America is obviously, first and foremost, the foods of the indigenous peoples who were here when Europeans landed. However, you have to remember that indigenous peoples in the southeastern United States were eating, worshiping, carving, trading, doing everything differently than indigenous peoples in the northwest corner of America did. So even there's different. We have such a large country with so many different ecosystems. But the food of the American South that came from Africa, floated up through the Caribe Islands, influenced with a little bit of the Spanish colonial experience in Central America, and kind of made its way into what is now the southeastern quadrant of the United States, and has percolated there and stewed over the last 100 years, is as close to what we have as a national cuisine, in my opinion, as exists. We don't have a lot of that at the Minnesota State Fair.
Tater tot casserole.
However, first of all, it's tater tot hot dish.
I apologize.
There's a difference between casserole and a hot dish.
See that? I wondered what would finally insult them.
A hot dish is layered. A casserole is mixed. Both are topped with something crunchy and baked. But a casserole is mixed. A hot dish is layered.
I don't know this.
How do you not know that?
I don't know.
You're dropping pool hole mole bombs, and you know the difference between a
casserole and a hot dish. I mean, I do now.
Okay.
We'll go to my grave.
Okay.
My casket will technically be a hot dish because there'll be layers of me in there.
Fine.
You know,
some people do potato chips. I'm more of a tater tots guy.
Okay.
But there is something so uniquely, I'll just say, Midwestern about it. There is something so quintessentially of its place that exists there. But the Twin Cities food scene in general, we've had so many important restaurants there. You know, the two most important restaurants to have opened in America in the last year are two Hmong restaurants, Diane's Place and Vinay, opened by Yia Vang and Diane Mua. The Hmong are a people who don't even have their own country. They're a cultural group that, was, persecuted by the Vietnamese. We airlifted them.
Right? Like when a mountainous culture sort of almost considered Chinese though, right?
People.
Yeah. Okay.
And, they have opened up these, they're not fine dining, but, a nuanced and progressive dining experience based on how their families cooked. Yia was born in a refugee camp called Vinay. That's how the restaurant got its name.
Wow.
Diane's parents are established Hmong farmers. The Hmong have remade farming as it exists in Minnesota. There's a lot of West Africans there. You see all of these foods show up. But some of my favorite bites at the fair the last couple of years have been made by booth owners who are cooking Hmong food or cooking Somali food. It is really, West African cuisine. It truly is amazing. And then I still love going to the, 100-year-old, mini donut place and having a coffee at 5:30 in the morning.
So you kind of have a little bit of an idea
of Sean Sherman, who opened Owamni and, has his Natives project, is Minnesota based. And, when he opened Owamni, using essentially no post-contact food there, was it the best restaurant in America? That, what's best? Was it the most important restaurant in America when it opened 4 or 5 years ago? Yeah, it was, because of what it said. And those things were birthed in Minneapolis. And, say what you want about all these lists, but, restaurants like, Gavin Kaysen's restaurants there are easily the best restaurants in the 5-state area in terms of quality of food. Best new restaurant opened by Jeannie Janis and her husband, Adam Ritter Boucheron, was, Beard's best new restaurant. Food and Wine Magazine had Diane's Place at best new restaurant. GQ had Vinay as America's best new restaurant. A couple years before that, it was Owamni. We have such an incredible food scene in Minnesota because we support as best we can, given the economic environment and the fucked up situation of restaurants in general. We support our restaurants and love incubating those types of places. And I think the food scene in Minnesota is now leading. It's not flyover country. It's now leading in terms of how food is being served around the country in many different ways.
This isn't an apples to apples comparison, but a lot of people, when they ask me about New Orleans, they're like, "Oh, I always wanted to go to New Orleans," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, go, but just don't go during Mardi Gras." I think it's one of those times. Go to New Orleans and really get to enjoy the place where you don't feel like you have to spend time in Cancun.
That's right.
With, drinking hurricanes out of a slushy machine.
That's right.
So do you think that there is an argument that I shouldn't go to Minnesota during the state fair?
No, because while everyone's busy there, it's a great time to go out and
the
eat
feast of
and dine.
immediate seating.
It's interesting what you said about New Orleans, though. Every time I say the word New Orleans, anyone who's been there who's listening can taste it.
Yeah.
And smell it.
Right. But the first time I went, it was Mardi Gras. And so I can
you say that about another city in America?
The sugar, and I can smell the vomit. But you can't say it about New York because it's too many smells and tastes.
Exactly right. But you can smell. Yes. You can smell and taste the roux and the gum. But New Orleans is, and I talk about this when I'm on the subway. If I'm giving a food talk, it is the only city in America that when you say its name, you can smell it and taste it in your mouth. There is something very special about a city that has a population of a couple 100,000 people and has 50 million visitors a year.
Yeah.
And their restaurant scene relies on keeping their traditions alive so that everyone can taste it. And my favorite places in New Orleans are the tiny little out of the way spots that no one knows about that my local chef friends, multi-generation Louisianans have taken me to, some of which I spilled the beans on in different shows.
And ruined it.
No, I didn't ruin it because I continue to go back there. I spat it out there and then I pulled it right back. But in one of them, a very famous New Orleans chef took me. It was his favorite restaurant. We went out there. It's in Metairie, and we're eating, and the dining room was packed. An hour wait, people out the door at lunch. And I stood up and I screamed for silence. Cameras are rolling. I said, anyone here who's not from within 10, 15 miles of here, raise your hand.
Yeah.
I was the only one who raised my hand. It's just me.
That's a good sign.
I mean, packed.
Right.
And fried seafood platters, po' boys, I mean, the special orders don't upset them. My friend said the roast beef po' boy is the best one there. He loves it because they're gravy.
The debris.
The debris and the gravy. Okay, but he loves the flavor of their gravy. And we had a fried seafood platter at the same time on the table because we ordered like 15 things like chefs do.
Yeah.
And I cut a piece of this giant size beef po' boy and I shoved like 6 fried oysters in it because I'm like beef, gravy, fried oysters, carpetbagger steak kind of vibe I'm going for. And I ate this thing. And now when I go in there, they look at me and they're like, you going to do another one of those, oyster? Now they just make it for me that way. I just assume eat in that city as any other city in the world.
Okay. I will say now, I knew beforehand why you're attractive to me when it comes to food. And now sitting down with you, and again, I'd started this interview telling you, and if I didn't tell you, I'll tell you again, it's an honor to have you sit here and talk like this. I'm utterly impressed. And they say don't meet people. I'm not going to call you a hero because you don't deserve it, but don't meet people that you love from afar because sometimes you're disappointed.
Yeah.
So
Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, I get it. I get it with you. I'll never have the opportunity to get it with Tony. Can you tell me why, in the same way that I think that you're built? And I think it's just not everybody nobody has it as far as I know. What set him apart? Just because when you casually say Tony, everybody in the food world now, their sphincters tighten up, right? Because he's become such a titan. And I wish that more people could have enjoyed him, for a longer amount of time. What made him different, Tony Bourdain? Anthony Bourdain. I don't get to call him Tony.
Indescribable certain something that, I mean, I've written and said this about him, and it's probably the best way to describe it. He was the most electric and magnetic personality on a human being I've ever met.
Wow.
He was so smart and so curious. You want to talk about 1950s French wave cinema or 1970s New York City punk, or, you know, what the best place in, you know, Malaysia to eat laksa or, you know, curried fish head soup. I've never met anyone like him that way. There is also, it's a really overused cliche, but as someone who was his friend, I can tell you every one of my male friends wanted to be his friend. And it was in the food world, it was almost like competition. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was kind of silly.
Right.
And I've never seen someone especially in the last, I'll just say 8-9 years of his life, when he was rolling jujitsu, had become a true icon and all the rest of that. I literally would walk in to a restaurant we'd be in the same city for a night, text each other, are we going to grab dinner? You know, just, you know, we'd see each other only a couple times a year, except at certain places where I knew I would see him for multiple days at a time, and we'd do more hanging. But we kept tabs on each other, like where we were going and, you know, and stuff like that. And we arranged to have dinner, and, you know, walking into, you know, a hot restaurant, just me and him, no reservation. Hey, can you squeeze 2 in? And, you know, they'd freak out a little bit because they couldn't believe it was both of us. Mm-hmm. And I would sit there at the table, and I've never been at a table with another man where I was convinced every single person in there wanted to fuck him.
Okay. Yeah.
Men, women.
Right.
The cats out in the alley. It didn't matter. I mean, he was so
fuckable, just
in every sense of the word. And just brilliant and funny and charming and everything that you'd want. And so we had a very funny set of circumstances. You know, children don't think their parents are that important. It's just dad.
Yep.
He's making me brush my teeth. Yes. That's, you know, and at one point, you know, my kid had no desire to see me on TV, but he loved Tony drank and smoked in his early shows.
Right.
And he continued to do in some of his later shows, but, you know, my son just thought that was the coolest thing in the whole world. Mm-hmm. And the music in his show was cooler, you know, and my son was just like, Dad, you know, this guy's way cooler than you.
And he was.
Oh, absolutely.
But there was an audience for both of you.
So yeah, I'm sitting at home.
That wasn't a dick.
No. Freely, I mean, you know, it's sort of the obvious.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy with my station in life, believe me. But you're talking about someone who, you said the word iconic, legendary. He will be remembered 200 years from now. And I get this text from him, and he said, I'm so fucking mad at you. And I'm like, for what? And he says, I'm sitting here on my daughter's bed in her room. I'm like, it's Sunday morning at like 11, and she won't leave. And I've got these plans for us, and we're going to lunch, and I'm taking her shopping, and then we're going here and we're going there. We have a whole daddy-daughter day that I've planned out, and she won't leave the house. And I'm like, why? Is everything okay? By the way, she was like 7 at the time.
Okay.
It's like, because she's obsessed with you, and there's an Andrew Zimmern marathon on, you know, on Travel Channel, and she won't leave. And we laughed for years about the fact that my kid didn't give a shit about me, but worshiped Tony. And his daughter was so into bizarre foods and because, you know, we never love what our parents are doing. And one of the great joys of my life was the couple of days that we had all of our families down at when the kids were little, down at the South Beach Wine and Food Festival. We were all staying in the same hotel and watching his daughter and my son run around places and eat ice cream and,
That's
you know, floating in the pool at the Raleigh Hotel. And I wish his story was different. And I hope, you know, I believe there's a place we go after this. And I really just, I hope for all those people that are in that much pain that they are in a much better place right now. But he was singular in every sense of the word.
I've had a conversation. My wife, my lovely wife, her dad was wiped out 9/11. I had worked for him on the floor of the American Stock Exchange. So I was banging the boss's daughter. And then I wound up marrying her. We're married 27 years. But it started with something that was a little bit more scandalous. When he was murdered in 9/11, we sometimes say, I wonder what he would feel like, because our industry, my wife was also, she was a broker on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. She outranked me. That's a picture of her over there. That's why I keep looking over. I said, your father would be so disappointed with the way that the business has developed, because the floor of the New York Stock Exchange is not the mecca that it once was. And that's my universe, and I knew it as good as anybody. Do you think that now, with knowing Anthony Bourdain so well, how would he react to what, like, the Food Network and the influencer thing that we're talking about now? How disgusted?
I'd give my left nut.
Like, you say that you
because
confront people.
I want him around. I think of him all the time at those moments, because I want to text him and say, are you watching this
asshole
piece of shit on whatever? Who can? And I want to text him and say, you know, I just got back from, you know, Turkmenistan. You gotta go, you know, because the only other person who was living that life
was him.
Other than me was him.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is that we started out doing the same show at the same time, but the way it worked out with airing, he was shooting a cook's tour for Food Network when we were shooting the pilots for Bizarre Foods, but I had two. And so they wanted to test them both. One was Bizarre Foods of Asia that became Bizarre Foods, that narrowly was more popular than World's Best Ballpark Foods, which I thought would be my job forever, which was me traveling around the world, going to soccer in South America, cricket in India, and eating, because I'm obsessed about sports. And they love both my ideas so much. They said, well, we'll make two pilots. And so I'm waiting. They wound up putting us on the same night. And they blew up at the same time. They stopped making Cook's Tour and went right into his No Reservation show before he went to CNN and did Parts Unknown. I just wish he was around to see what had happened. He'd probably also be really secretly charmed, but publicly disgusted at all the adoration. But I also would have wanted him to see how so many things wound up, that he was very insistent things would happen a certain way with certain people. And he was sure he was right. And he was mostly right. About a lot of it. But I would love to have seen where his relationships went with certain people that he publicly berated, who, you know, one reason or another just developed a little differently, and I think have come into a place of their own where they're doing a lot of good works in the world. And I would love to have seen what he thought about that, but mostly just someone to shoot the shit with about food in arcane places that only he and I cared about.
You don't have a lot of peers. Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't have a lot of peers in that respect, but I feel like you sitting across the table for him, I would never be the third seat.
It's funny. This is what I love about a generation of makers who are out there doing food stuff on YouTube, where they're traveling to every country in the world eating. And there are 5 or 6 of them, and I'm lucky enough to have met them, and they're all very, very kind, and they've all said the same thing to me, which is, I watched you and Bourdain growing up, and I grabbed a camera and went on YouTube, and now 80 million people are following me. And they do an incredible job, and they know their stuff.
They don't.
And
they don't do as good of a job as you. You're bullshitting me.
Different type of storytelling.
It's not as good.
It's a different job. That's your opinion, and it's very flattering.
I'll die on that hill.
It's very flattering.
I'll fight anybody who says different.
I think there's a reason you feel that way. I'm going to take a guess here.
Please.
I think we all need a good editor. And I mean that with a capital E.
Okay.
Because someone has to edit the film. When you are making your own content, you lack the forced rulemaking of other collective minds in the space.
Yeah.
And I do believe, for those of us that were a little more old school, my best writing, the people say, oh my God, I can't believe how great that thing was. Like, well, I wrote a really good essay, but the op-ed editor at the New York Times polished it, edited it.
Right.
And then sent it back to me and said, I made some changes. And I'm just like, wow, yeah, that's a better sentence, you know? And because they are the best at what they do. Tony and I had incredible teams of videographers. We both wrote our own stuff. We didn't, the shit just came out of our mouths. We had descriptive powers. We understood food and comparative. We had also had a lot of life experience that some of these younger people who start just making content right away because you can do it on your phone.
Yes.
Don't have. So I think we add something to that mix as well. But it's mostly because we were playing a team sport. And a lot of these other people that you may be seeing are playing a solo sport. And I think we are better off when we get input from other people, even when we don't like it.
And and to your point, there is a lower barrier of entry. All you need is somebody who has a lot of Sky Miles and a good cell phone.
Yeah, but
they could
you
do
look
something
at,
together.
He may not be everyone's look. I'm not insisting everyone love him. But Mark Wiens, is someone who, season 2 of Bizarre Foods, I think he was in my Thailand show. He was literally just starting. I think he had 10 followers.
Okay.
But he was the first doing, I'm exaggerating, Mick, but he's the first one doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he's now a huge, Titanic.
Yeah.
And great guy, knows his stuff, and he's kind of focused on Southeast Asia. Sonny the Food Guy, same way. There's a whole bunch of people that I think are good at what they do.
They're good. They're not great.
Judge.
They're not iconic
yet.
Okay.
They may be, but by the way, they may not be. We'll see. We don't know. Maybe the age of icons. You want to make a Lord of the Rings?
This is bigger. Yes.
Is the age of icons, but behind us? Have we become so egalitarian, so democratic on one hand, and also so splintered and divided as human beings around the world that we won't have true icons anymore? Everyone will be so specialized, much in the same way that, pitchers, when I was growing up, you pitched a complete game.
Yes. And now that's gone. And by the way, I'm blowing this guy right here, but he shows up to our office. I said, it all depends on how big of a group he comes with. I'll be able to put out another 2 chairs, one for your publicist. And I know you say you have your editors and your help and your all this stuff and you rely on people. And that's the secret to a successful businessman. And if you want any better example, think of every professional athlete once they retire and they just lose everything by opening up car washes with their uncles and stuff. But you take Shaq, for example, and all Shaq does is ask questions and ask for help. And as a result, he's one of the most successful businessmen, ex-athletes, right?
Yes.
So you get that. So when I consider you an icon and you showed up by yourself, you called our talent booker, Sage, and she's waiting for a call from your fucking publicist or something. Because Scott Conan came, there were 4 people carrying his sled, and he came and they were throwing the rose petals in front of him the whole bill. He is very fancy. And you just came in and kind of banged that out. And I think that if nowadays, perhaps
I'm a nice guy because I called her to say I was going to be 5 minutes late.
No, I think you're a nice guy because you came up with like you might have took the subway here is what my point is, because I think people kind of anoint themselves to, I can tell you right now, my boss doesn't show up by himself. and he's pretty good at pizza reviews. You had entrails on the hubcap in Kazakhstan, right? You know what I'm saying?
That's very kind. Yes, today I am not. When it is UN General Assembly week and I'm going to 5
of course,
places, I'm doing all that. I got, the car and driver and the fleet of people and people on phones and doing all. It really depends on what I'm doing,
right?
And when I'm doing it. But for I have. It's 2 reasons. Number one, I've been sober for 34 years, so I don't take myself that seriously anymore. So that's number one. And number two, when someone walks in with a posse, I look at that and I always ask myself why, and then sometimes I have the reason for it, right? Like I get it, but I was at Bottle Rock last year, and Serena Williams and her husband Alex Ohanian and their kids were there with a nanny. Now, I'm under no false ideas here that 100 yards away weren't 16 security people and all the rest of that kind of stuff, because when you are as successful as they are, not just in achievement, but I'm talking about in terms of dollars and stuff like that, and you're with your kids, if you're not spending money on security, you're a schmuck, right? So we just didn't see them. But when everywhere they went, even into the crowd, they're like with their kids and running around. And I just started BS talking, with him. And, I told him, I said, my favorite thing about him is not his business little things on social media and stuff like that, but when he talks about being a dad, he's such an active parent. I really admired that. I look at that and I say, okay, that's as real as those kind of people are going to get.
Yeah.
I instantly respected the two of them so much more, seeing them out in the world unpossied.
Okay.
I have seen other people who just got famous in the last 12 months.
Yes.
With 75 people, because that's how they feel they have to represent. And I'm just like, ooh, ouch. And you want to hug them and say you don't have to, but everyone's got to learn that lesson by themselves.
Yeah. So Andrew had promised to come on for at least 25 minutes. How deep are we into this?
2 hours, 15 minutes.
That's the way to go, isn't it? I'm going to wrap it up though, but I'm going to, do you remember inside the Actors Studio?
Oh, of course.
James Lipton, and he used to end with the same. Do you not remember
the only, I did a Super Bowl commercial once.
With James Lipton,
Kelly Clarkson, Boomer, and me in a car, in a Toyota, driving around America.
Really?
Oh, it's hysterical.
I don't. I'll hit that too.
It's hysterical.
I'll hit that. By the way, Kelly Clarkson is unbelievably talented. I mean,
and actually, and
I'm going to start talking to this fucking guy for 3 hours.
She's a great person.
Is she a great person?
James Lipton it was like being in the press. Everyone couldn't help themselves but be imitating him.
Oh, right.
The whole time. And he was highly irritated by that.
I need to rob that from James. I need those questions that were developed by Pierre Montefort, whatever the fuck those questions were. When God sees you, what's your first curse word?
Yes.
All that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I love that. So I need to develop those for the end of every time I do this.
Yes.
So it's a work in progress.
You haven't yet?
I haven't yet because I'm trying it off. I'm trying it out on certain people. And there are certain questions I don't ask when people are here, and there are certain ones that cater to people like yourself versus if Charlie Sheen was in this chair. Charlie Sheen was just in the office. That's why I use him. So please excuse me if they seem a little pedestrian.
No, I love it.
How do you take your eggs? What's the one way that if you had to have
fried
eggs,
crispy edges, fried crispy edges, runny yolks?
So, but you say that so fucking quickly. Do you think your fans expect you to say something it's like a shakshuka large, but it's one that we do with
No, because that's all bullshit. You add too many flavors on. They asked me how I like my eggs.
Fried crispy edges.
The way you said the question implies it's breakfast. You're running out the door. You're pouring yourself a cup of coffee. I just posted it on my Instagram account 2 days ago of me frying my eggs because motherfuckers out there said, "Oh, you can't do them in a cast iron pan; they stick." I'm like, "What are you, high?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that in a surprising way is that we take our eggs the same way.
2 on toast.
What's up, brother? No big deal. What meal do you wish you can get back, but you know you never will? It was
giant sea scallops in Samoa. They don't exist anymore on planet Earth.
So, wait a sec. So, okay. So the species is no longer around.
Yeah, there were only 2 beds that were active. One was ruined by a blight, and the other one, there's still some in isolation. Mm-hmm. They believe out. We just don't know. But the big research facility on them was on the southwestern side of Apia in Samoa, and we shot there. And the tribe, we were there, happened to be on the day that the Matai of the tribe was pulling out their 1 sea scallop a year that they were allowed to eat. Now, these sea scallops are like the size of a Volkswagen.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they're massive.
Yeah, okay.
It takes 4 or 5 people to carry. I mean,
I have no reference. Are you talking about really scallop. A Volkswagen, or are you saying
an actual scallop?
So where is scallops have the most beautiful shell as far as I'm concerned. I'm in love with them.
This thing is delicious, amazing. But the tsunami that ripped through that country 9 years ago, everyone who's in Bizarre Foods Samoa is dead. Who's a native Samoan, because there was nowhere to run on that side of the island. We just shot on one side of the island because there was so much content there. And so in that, and those beds, those scallop beds were ripped up. So I don't think anyone, I mean, look, I've also eaten 3,000-year-old butter. I've eaten things that I'm not sure any other human being on earth will ever get to eat. Right. Again. I've eaten kasumarzu, the live maggot cheese. The maggots. In Sardinia, made by a 90-year-old shepherd, and in the Nicaraguan forest, where they also eat it, but sort of by accident. The Sandinistas lived on this stuff because it was so humid they couldn't help the flies impregnating their queso fresco. So those are the only 2 places in the world that it's made. It's illegal in both countries, and it's fallen out of favor. I'm not sure anyone's going to eat that, have a chance to eat that again. Yes. I mean, there's a long list of foods. I may be the only person or last person, certainly last person that looks like me to eat them.
That's going to be a universal question then, Ian, because when I ask that question, typically someone says, my grandmother made a stew. My grandmother is no longer around, and we used to do this. And then somebody else was like, you know what? Wednesdays was chicken nuggets and powdered potatoes in my high school. It was disgusting, but being around that table with my old buddies. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, the best. Everyone has an answer that. Everyone has an answer.
But I make those English muffin pizzas.
Oh, yes.
Today that we had at school on 89th Street. And my grandmother's roast chicken was the first thing that I perfected. If you ask me the question, what famous person, living or dead, would you most like to cook for? The answer is always the same. It's my grandmother, because she died when I was like 19. Mm-hmm. I was an active junkie. I nodded. I was supposed to go to her service. I nodded out in a bathroom in a restaurant, wound up getting arrested, spent a couple days. There's no drunk tanks in New York. You went to Bellevue, a psych ward. And I got out and everything was over. Shiva was, and I never, it was so disrespectful. It's like something that I constantly feel I'm making amends for, but I cook all of her. I'm the one that through my father got all her recipes, and I think I've made them a little bit better. Oh. They're a little I want her to taste my version of her food.
Okay. So that's a good answer too. So that's the best answer on both sides. Giant scallops in Samoa, which no longer exist, and everyone who was in that shoot, unfortunately, tragically, is gone. And then your grandmother who passed away at a young. That's a very good answer. I'm going to keep that one in. All the egg one I'm still going to keep in also. What's a Tim Duncan of food? You remember Tim? Never flashy, but got it done at a very high level.
The highest.
Yes.
And also, the only NBA star from the
Haiti? No.
From
what island?
The U.S. Virgin Island, St. Croix. He was crucial.
Okay.
Big statue of him at the airport.
Is there in St. Croix?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe it's pronounced Croix, just so you know. You're a traveling guy. I wanted to put that in. No, I'm just kidding.
You were impressed that I knew it was Crucian.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
The Tim Duncan of foods. I think rack of lamb is too precious, but I would probably have to go with a standing rib roast.
Okay.
Because as cliche as it is, if you cook it properly and don't screw it up, the rewards, it delivers every single time.
And for days.
Yes.
Like I could tell you, one of my, I don't go to Smith & Wollensky's a ton. And Smith & Wollensky's is a fine enough steakhouse in New York City. I've been there a million times when I was entertaining customers. Right next door, Smith & Wally's Grill, they do their prime rib hash.
Yes.
And I think that's an elite New York City dish.
It is elite. And I love making hash. Sometimes for a holiday, there'll be 6 people at the table and everyone's like, why are you making an 8 or 10
rib
bone?
roast. Yes.
And I'm like, because I want roast beef sandwiches shaved paper thin, dipped in the jus. I want that wet running down my hands. I want to make hash. I need to have all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Rib roast is the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah.
What ingredients, so conversely, do you wish would go away? Is there something that it's either done with or you're done with yourself? Is there something overly popular or something you just want to go away?
I just want all the fucked up food mistakes to go away. Lobster mac and cheese is a travesty. It makes them. It doesn't improve the mac and cheese.
I got killed for that last time I fucking said
it. What an abomination for lobster.
Right.
That doesn't mean that noodle cheese lobster can't be good. Mm-hmm. It's just that lobster mac and cheese is, these things get popular and then they wind up on menus everywhere.
Yes.
So that kind of thing just really pisses me off.
I don't order lobster in a restaurant that often.
Neither do I.
When I do get it, or if my wife gets it, I like it. The next day, I just bring it back up to temp in butter, just poaching it in butter. Then I make a lobster omelet with the cheapest American cheese in the wrapper before I knew about New School.
Sounds delicious.
That's one of my favorite ways to have a little bit of creme fraiche.
I do lobster omelets. I do a Japanese. I'll make Japanese short grain rice, saute lobster in brown butter, season it with scallions, a little chili flake, and then do a Japanese soft omarisi omelet on top. Yeah. And that's one of my favorite treats. Although it's interesting, I will go to a steakhouse, order a steak, and just take it home with me and eat it the next day, because I think it's better the next day after it comes up to temp at room temperature, because of the way the fat interacts with the human mouth. I'm not big on hot steak. But I really do love leftover lobster. If we're having lobster dinner, if I order them from the East Coast, we live in Minnesota, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll order them from a place because I know the guy, they know me. They send me, my steamers.
You got a guy goodies. For everything.
I do.
I have a guy for a lot of stuff. If you need a Vespa, I have a guy. Like I have certain guys.
Yeah.
You have a guy for. I
do. That is one thing I have. I got a guy.
That's fucking awesome.
And so I will get like 12, and I I've got my little seal meal machine. I vacuum seal, the cooked lobster meat, so I can keep it refrigerated for days. It won't spoil. Mm-hmm. And then I love lobster rolls and all that kind of stuff.
I can tell you that macaroni and cheese has its place. I love everything.
Macaroni and cheese.
But I think that when they do start to bastardize it, it's something that I can pass on.
And the same thing with truffle and everything, and caviar and everything.
Truffle oil that's not even real is ingredient. The devil's taint. It goes bad faster than anything else. It's awful.
It's not real.
Yeah, it's butter.
Not real.
It's butter at the movie theaters. Like, you know what I mean? It's
worse.
That same. Perhaps it's worse. And I could, if I have it next morning, I might as well lay on the floor. I could shit on the ceiling.
However,
it's Escalar,
a great truffle. Exactly. Yeah. It's Escalar is another. It's just like enough already.
Yeah. So sometimes I ask people, what do you wish you enjoyed, but you simply cannot stomach it? Is there something that you see other people enjoying on a regular basis and you're like, that's just not for Andrew Zimmern? That might be a no.
There's 3 or 4 foods that I absolutely don't like, but I've never thought to myself, boy, I wish I liked them.
No,
because I like so many other things. Hot oatmeal. Let me just tell you something.
Oatmeal.
Hot oatmeal is disgusting. I mean, Oliver Twist, begged for more. At the it's gruel.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I drill down with people on it, it's like, well, with the brown sugar and the melted butter and the fruit and all the rest of it, I'm like, how about just pancake? Leave the gruel. How about mixing that together with some flour and an egg, chilling it, and making cookies out of it? I love oatmeal raisin cookies.
Right.
I love haggis. Raw, milk braised or water braised oats are just foul. I've never seen someone like eating a bowl of it in the morning and thought to myself, boy, I wish I liked that.
Yeah, I can see that because it isn't an attractive dish anyway. Like I know with Guy without eating eggs,
there's not a
I
good
think he's
flavor.
jealous of us. Like when we have a nice egg. You don't think so? You think he's that?
Well, I know he
off?
isn't. Do you know the only person that called him out?
No.
My son.
Really?
Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives 12 years ago. Well, Noah's 20, almost 21. So Noah was 7. So 14, 15 years ago, guy calls me, says, where are you? I said, I'm driving to my house. He goes, what are you doing? And I'm just driving Noah home from school. He goes, how quickly can you be at Pizzeria Lola? And I'm like, Ann Kim's first restaurant in the Twin Cities. He goes, I'm over here doing a pizza thing. It would be great if you and your kid just showed up and ate pizza with us. I'm like, I turned to Noah. I said, you want to get some pizza over at Lola? He loved Lola. We always ate the Sunny Side, which was a white pizza with an egg cracked in the middle and baked in the oven. And you dip the crust in the yolk. Fantastic pizza. Braised leeks on it. Really delicious pizza.
Yes.
And so we get there and Guy's got the pepperoni and the sausage, this and that. And he's like, Noah, grab a slice. And Noah looks at Ann and says, can I get a Sunny Side? And she's like, sure. And she goes, she's got all her bees up, whips one up. Mm-hmm. 90 seconds later, out of this 800-degree oven comes Sunny Side. And Noah's like, try this one is my dad. This is our favorite. And he's like, I'm going to have another taste of this. And Noah's like, come on, try this. And he's like, keeps insisting. And on camera, he says, Noah, I've never admitted this to anyone, but I don't like eggs.
Really?
And that's how it first came out.
That's how it first started.
Yeah.
Because I know even I keep going back.
Important part of history. My son and
was
Guy
at the forefront.
Yeah.
He was the Zapruder film. Well, no, that's not.
He just doesn't like eggs.
Yeah, he doesn't. But I think he might. Like I sometimes, if I don't enjoy a dish, I get jealous of people who have it. I'm like, I wish I could enjoy that. I'm not a fruit
aren't there
guy.
So many other.
I know that, but I guess that's not a question for you. You're not.
Oh, definitely not.
You're not a
Yes,
mere
I'm the
mortal when it
exact
comes to
opposite.
this shit.
Yeah,
This is the wrong question for you. So I'm keeping it. But I'm not asking you again. What meal would you be embarrassed for people to know you eat regularly? I have kids, so sometimes I'm cleaning off their plates. If something delicious falls in the garbage, I do not care. There's a 5-second rule. I eat out of the garbage.
I got a 30-second rule.
Oh, do you really?
Sometimes I have a 7-hour rule. I have gone in. I have eaten leftover cold Chinese food from like 3 days before I out of the carton. And I'm just like, okay, I can't eat the bottom inch there's too much oil. It's the last pieces of vegetable. It's the little pieces of blechy meat. Right. And I throw it away. And like 8 hours later in the middle of the night, I'm like, God, I want one more bite of that black bean chicken noodle thing. Right. And I will go in and I'm not embarrassed about it at all.
Right.
I think I make tater tot hot dish all the time, recipes on my web. I mean, I love that kind of food. Mm-hmm. I'm not really embarrassed about, any of it. I think people would be surprised to know how much I love instant ramen, but I like to zhuzh it up with things.
Do. Yes.
What else I don't think I've talked about pizza rolls and my love of a lot of other junk. Gas station pizza I'm really big on. But this is terrible.
Please.
But I've never admitted this before. Oscar Mayer makes a turkey hot dog. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever eaten one hot. I will take them right out of the bag. It's like a 2-ounce meat snack.
Sure.
To me, that is,
I hope,
and I'll just eat it plain.
I hope you're embarrassed with that. Because you're a fucking animal.
I feel safe. I feel like you're a safe space for us to. Because I'm not seeing the other side of all the millions of people listening to this now. Just you and I talking.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who like I put mayonnaise on an aspirin, that type of thing. Like so, but I would say that a turkey dog, a cold Oscar Mayer turkey dog,
just right out of the.
It's an abomination to the Lord. This is going to be my final question, and it might be very tough for you to answer, or maybe not. What would be your
I'm
death
a dominant bottom.
What would be your really
Dom bomb?
Yeah, I'm 4 inches on the mush.
Dom bomb.
Death row meal. I don't know what you're going to get put to death for, but it's eventual.
Oh, I can tell you right now.
When they rap on the thing and they say, listen, you got a day. What do you want? What's your death row meal?
I can tell you right now.
What you're going to be put to death for and what your death row meal is? Or
no, I know what my meal is.
Give it to me.
I love cherry stone clams, not little necks, cherry stones, big, fat, salty cherry stones. I need to dig them out of the sound myself, out of the ocean. They have to be a certain size. I open them myself because I don't trust anyone else to do it the right way. I eat them. I have oyster crackers on the side, and I dip my oyster crackers sometimes into a little cocktail sauce, but mostly I'm just eating them plain, not even any lemon. But every once in a while, I reset my palate with some oyster crackers and cocktail sauce. Next up is my grandmother's roast chicken with my mother's ratatouille and my mom's gazpacho, kind of like that's like my food thing in the middle. And then it's a pint all to myself with none of my ex-wives, no one saying, can I give me a bite? Right. I just get to have my own pint of like really good coffee or espresso ice cream, which is my favorite flavor. Occasionally a little drizzle of Zoe Francois hot fudge sauce, which is my favorite hot fudge sauce.
Sure.
My father used to, when he was growing up, they were called Broadway Sundays, coffee ice cream with hot fudge sauce. So he would take me to all these old scoop shops all up and down the East Coast. We'd always order a Broadway Sunday. So I think of my dad. So I'd have the coffee ice cream and occasionally a little hot fudge. Think of my dad, and that's it.
I might use it.
And take me out.
I went to Island Creek Oysters up in like Duxbury, Mass.
Oh, sure.
And with Barstool Outdoors, and the woman who does
they're all good friends of mine.
Oh, wonderful people.
Yeah.
So they took me down in the caviar fridge, 41 degrees, and we were doing bumps like you read about, and I loved it. But going out into whatever the bay, whatever it is, going out into the bay and grabbing an oyster out and shucking it yourself and eating it when you're kind of knee deep in water.
It's the best.
Most delicious oyster I've ever had in my life.
We have pictures of that. Right on the back of the back of the book.
It's exactly what it reminded me of. When I'd seen the book, it reminded me of the time that I did. And the person...
I stuffed myself that day.
Oh, did you really?
Well, both Barton and I had an oyster opener, and we were shooting for like 4 hours out there. They're also growing a lot of seaweed. It was, so we're eating seaweed and shucking oysters out of it was Hog Island is where we were.
Oh, really?
Pacific Northwest.
This was it was a singular experience for me. The New Orleans sizzling style oysters. So before you go, I'm going to say this is the Blue Food Cookbook: delicious seafood recipe for a sustainable future. There are approachable recipes in here. Do not be afraid of this book.
It's not frou-frou food.
Yeah, do not be. And it's absolutely delicious. And before you go, I just have to thank you again because it's been a absolute pleasure. I'm sorry for keeping you here now almost 2 hours and 40 minutes, but you knew the fucking risks, to be quite honest with you, so I have no regrets.
Will you come back? Me at hello.
Thank you so much. Will you come back?
No.
Will we?
You're coming to Minnesota.
I would love to come to Minnesota.
You would have such a blast. We'll do a little on the road thing. Come and I'll take you around because Mung Market, there's really fun places to go.
Right.
That we would have a blast.
And you challenge me too on some of this stuff too. So I'd be a better person at the end of the
and we'll get you a real pair of those boots.
Yes, a nice pair. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. We're done.
Is that it?
I think so.
Okay.
Like I have so many other things I want to talk about, but I feel like I'm starting to become a little bit irresponsible.
Say hi to your wife for me. She's got to be a saint.
Yo, my wife's nickname is Saint Anne, right? That's my wife. Everyone calls her Saint Anne because she puts up with me. But she's a beautiful woman. I love her to death. All right, this is Andrew Zimmerman. He's going to change it, right? Thank you so much for coming on.
For you.
And the next time you see us together, we'll be in Minnesota, absolutely tearing it up at the State Fair. Honestly. Thank you so much.
That's a date.
Leave whatever you guys need to leave on stuff. I'm going to put in the ad in a second, but leave whatever you guys can on anywhere where you're seeing this, socially, YouTube, listening to it, or anything else. Make sure you buy Andrew's book and make sure
AndrewZimmern.com.
AndrewZimmern.com.
All things.
Zimmern.com. AndrewZimmern.com. Please don't pay attention to me because I'm a moron, and it'll change your life like he changed mine. Thank you again, Andrew, for coming by and spending some time. We'll see you guys next time on You Gotta Try This.